It is the 2-minute warning at DKR, Texas and Georgia, as many thought. Could be the first game where there's some suspense at the 2-minute warning, and there's a ball game to be won. At this point, Texas is trailing Georgia, a wild one tonight at DKR. It's 30-15. Georgia with the lead. Texas has the ball inside past midfield for a very strange reason we can get into. It is the Orange Bloods Live postgame show brought to you by the Lowy Law Firm. Shout out to the Lowy Law Firm. Also, you see the TCH Social logo behind me. I am here at TCH Social Austin. The big Trailblazer tournament was going on today, and the big screen was fired up with Texas and Georgia and all the big games of the day. So shout out to TCH Social Austin for having us out once again. Make your plan to get out here for Texas and Vanderbilt next week. That, of course, is Jeff Ketchum getting it done on his side of things. Mr. Ketchum, wild game in Austin. We're going to obviously get every angle of it here. I'll invite everybody to throw us a super chat if you like. I don't see one yet, but if you want to throw us a super chat, big money wins in the post-game super chats. Oscar wants to start $4.99, a tear in that emoji's eye, and pain is the word from Oscar. Oscar, thank you so much for starting us off with a little $4.99. Catch 30-15 here at the 2-minute warning. Your initial thoughts on all that you've seen so far tonight?
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack tonight. At the end of the day, and this game's not over. I mean, Georgia's going to win this game, but they did something weird going into the 2-minute warning that has Texas with the ball. They might score a touchdown to be in a position to kick an extra point, or excuse me, and I got all kinds of alarms going off right now, an onside kick. And so, the game's not over, but assuming this thing goes as we expect, Georgia was better than Texas tonight. They did not win this game the way that I thought they would, but they were flat out better. Texas gave a valiant effort in the second half, but things like valiant efforts often get said about teams that lose. And what happened tonight, Texas gave a valiant second half effort. It made it a ball game. They didn't play well enough pretty much in every phase. By the way, Gunnar Helm just caught a ridiculous pass and they got a first down. And, Longhorns again have a chance to make this a one-score game when it's all said and done.
Man, Gunnar Helm just keeps making play after play. Too bad Texas couldn't have got him going earlier in this game.
We've talked all season long about what this season is. And the reality is that Texas came into tonight's game with a mulligan to play with, and they used it tonight. They weren't better than Georgia. They're going to end up losing this game. They didn't get good quarterback play for a lot of it. They didn't run the ball ever well. The offensive line wasn't as good as it needed to be. The run defense wasn't as good as it needed to be. They weren't better than Georgia tonight, but now they have a loss in SEC play. Now they've lost one of the mulligans that they have available to them with regards to making the playoffs. I don't know that it's a reason to freak out. I think that the first half was an unmitigated disaster. And honestly, Chad, it kind of reminded me. I went to the first ever Dallas Cowboys game in Jerry World when they played the Giants.
Oh, good grief.
And Romo had one of those occasional Romo games that you knew that you could kind of expect, right? Bunch of first quarter turnovers, and yet the Giants didn't put the Cowboys away. But in the end, after 60 minutes is over with, you're like, yeah, we knew at the end of the first quarter that it was going to be too much to overcome. And I think there got to be a point somewhere in the first half where even if you believe that Texas was going to come back in this game and give it a valiant effort, and Quinn Ewers' final pass at a night falls incomplete. So this game's going to end 30-15. Georgia was better than Texas tonight. And now Texas knows what it will take if it's in this game again later in the season. and they just got to play a lot better. It wasn't their night.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. And it looks like that is going to be the final. We are getting some super chats already piling up, and we do appreciate you there. Jump on in to super chat land. We'll start with, hey, it's Canadian, but it's still money. Thank you, Uncle Mickey. $13.99 Canadian. Quote, angry men win football games. First half was like Cotton Bowl versus Miami. Oh, wow. Their safeties played back all night, and their 9 on D beat our 11. Lots of work to do. Catch, I'm not sure I understand losses can hurt. I don't know that there's any reason to bring up the Cotton Bowl against Miami.
No, but I understand it for the first half. I mean, it was a disaster in the first half. Quinn Ewers got benched.
Yeah.
And I think that's a microcosm of everything that went on in the first 30 minutes of this game. Texas got shut out. It was 23-0. It did at the time feel a little bit like that Miami game. That's not unfair. First 30 minutes of this game, the comparison to that 1990 Miami game, completely fair with the exception of Georgia not having 200 yards in penalty.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I mean, it was that level of dominance. And I think it's a credit to the Longhorns that they came back in the second half and made this thing competitive enough that it won't feel in the end like an unmitigated disaster that it felt like at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But, boy, this was the biggest home game in Quinn Ewers' career. We talked about it all week long. He got benched. Now, he came back and actually had a really good third quarter. In the fourth quarter, he didn't do anything, right? It's not show friends. It's not show feelings. It's show business. And he didn't deliver in the fourth quarter. So in the end, he had two just disaster quarters, a great third quarter, and not nearly good enough in the fourth quarter. It wasn't a complete performance, but you wouldn't say this loss is entirely about him because I think the offense was so bad. Not having a running game, the offensive line struggling. There was more going on than just Quinn. But look, Quinn Ewers is supposed to be the best player on this team. Quinn Ewers is the one with a Dr. Pepper commercial that says, I don't need backup. Tonight he did. Tonight
right.
He had backup for a little while. And in the end, Quinn was, again, I use the word microcosm twice, but kind of a microcosm of the entire performance. He comes back and saves it a little bit, right? Nobody now has to panic after tonight. When literally at halftime, I wasn't quite sure what were we watching? What was tonight historically going to be? Was tonight the handoff to Arch? Like there was a lot of so many questions and no answers. I think everybody can take a deep breath. It's not a disaster. Texas lost a ball game, and I think none of the idea of an SEC championship game appearance isn't out the window. Making the playoffs isn't out the window. Texas will lose its number one ranking, and they deserve to do so. And I think they'll come out of this game knowing they've learned a lot. Nobody can say now they haven't played anybody. Texas didn't have muscle memory of playing a team like Georgia. Now they do. And, look, they can say, boy, you hate to be the number one team in the country, Chad, and talk about moral victories. But Texas ends up winning the second half. And that is really small stakes. It's really insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But they don't have to walk out of the stadium feeling ashamed. And there was a moment for most of the entire first half and halftime, it felt like maybe they would. So I think they salvaged their dignity, and with it, the season continues. I won't be somebody that screams fire in a crowded theater. The bottom line is Texas will play bigger games with stakes even higher later in the season, and they have to play so much better. Quinn Ewers has to play so much better. The running game's got to find a way to be a little bit better. Texas has to be better. They weren't tonight. They got what they deserved. They got a loss. And now they move on to Vanderbilt. And you do so realizing that if you win out and win the rest of your games, there's only 5 left, there's a very good chance that you'll be playing this team again with higher stakes on the line than there were tonight.
I see 11 super chats. We appreciate them coming in. Over 1,500 folks in the Specs chat. Shout out to the Lowy Law Firm. Shout out to Specs and to TCH Social Austin, where I am tonight. Thanks to everybody who came out to see us tonight. We appreciate you. Onair Richardson, of course, is at DKR, so we'll get his thoughts on it coming up. Jason Sukamel of Orange Bloods, I believe, may jump in tonight with us. So we got a lot going on, and obviously your super chats will be in the mix as well, and I'm trying to keep them marked as fast as they are coming in. So thank you for all these super chats that are rolling in, and we'll get to them in maybe reverse order that they come in. So it may not be the biggest amount first, but we'll get to them. Trust me. Triplet 199. Neither quarterback has played worth a fick in this game. Both quarterbacks had their issues. Catch, one shock to me in this game. If you tell me at kick, there's going to be 7 combined turnovers. 7 combined turnovers between these teams. It did get weirdly sloppy in this game, and I don't think that's what a lot of people necessarily expected from it, but it had a lot of that. Patrick throws in a $10 super chat. Texas looked inept in the first half. Catch, it's a good way to describe it. So it was such a bizarre start to this game. I kept wondering as we got ready for the game, would Georgia's experience in this type of game help them? They completely started awful against Bama, but then they had that experience, like you're talking about. You'd played a big time team, and you'd figured out, those, get a little scarring on you, if you will. And it just felt like Kirby's team was kind of ready for this. And I don't know, Texas just felt out of it from the beginning. And Quinn was a part of that, but there were a lot of Longhorns that were a part of that. They just looked out of sorts to start this game.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's hard to pick on the defense. In the first half, Georgia didn't have a scoring drive of more than 35 yards. So the Texas defense kept getting put in terrible positions. The Texas defense turned Georgia over a couple of times, and boy, if they don't, 23-0 might be 35-0. And then nothing that happens in the second half really matters at that point. So they kept this team in the game. Steve Sarkisian didn't have an offense that was ready. Quinn Ewers wasn't ready. Quinn didn't play well. Quinn had a bad game. Now, I don't want to hear that he played better than Carson Beck. I don't care. Carson Beck didn't get benched. And in the end, Carson Beck made a couple of big plays to help this Georgia team win the game. He gets a big first down late in the game when it looked like he was about to take a sack. And, he wasn't good, but his team won. Texas lost. They only scored 15 points. And it's hard to look at the stats and feel really real good about anything. Quinn Ewers finishes the night with a 110 quarterback rating. I mean, forget about everybody else. Quinn was not good.
Well, and also, and Catch, we had the moment. You and I have talked about this for months, and sometimes it's a joke and sometimes it's serious. And this week we talked about it, and sometimes it was a joke and sometimes it's serious, but we got there. What happens if Georgia starts well and puts points on the board and Quinn Ewers is not playing well? And that's at least part of the reason why Texas isn't looking good. What does Sark do? And we came to that moment where more than one or a lot of Texas fans decided, wait, is it time for 16? Is this it? Is this when he's going to go to Arch? And then it ends up being go to Arch, but then Quinn comes back into the game. You said Quinn had a bad night, and he certainly did in a lot of ways. Do you think it's bigger than that coming out of this game?
No, because, really, he played a really good third quarter, and that salvages the night. I'm sure we'll have Onair on the show here in a little bit, and one of the things we'll ask Onair is like, hey, tell us what Sark said I have to believe that Sark will give Quinn a big vote of confidence. He'll point to the second half. Look, this team is going to go as far as Quinn Ewers can take them unless Quinn Ewers gets injured. And there was a moment tonight where if Arch, really tough spot for Arch to be put into. Like when he comes into the game in the second quarter, that first third down throw is wildly short. And you could see him like,
yeah,
he was.
I was stretching with him. Hey, Catch, we were all kind of stretching with him, weren't we? Ooh, okay, youngster, here we go. So, here it comes.
Those things happen, right? It was a tough spot for him to be in. Look, I think there'd be some real questions if Quinn struggles in the second half. Let me give you some numbers, okay? Quinn Ewers in the first quarter was 5 of 8 for 17 yards. That translated to an 80.4 college efficiency rating, which is about 100 points lower than you ideally like it to be.
That is brutal.
In the second quarter, he was 1 of 4 for 0 yards and interception. That translated to a negative 25 quarterback rating.
Wow.
In the third quarter, he was 7 of 10 for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 211.6 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And a boy, he was only 236 points better in the third quarter than he was in the second quarter. And then with a game on the line in the fourth quarter, he was 12 of 21 for 104 yards. And that translates to a 98.7 rating. So in 3 of the 4 quarters that he played in tonight, he was below 100 from an efficiency rating standpoint. What that means is it doesn't matter what words I use to describe metaphors and similes and whatever colorful language that I want to use. The non-confirmation bias numbers say that's not good enough at all in 3 of the 4 quarters. Look, he's got to be better. This is his second consecutive bad game. No offense to the 1 quarter. It's the second consecutive game where he's played well in 1 quarter out of the entire game. So they go on the road to Vanderbilt next week. He's got to be. They won't win in Nashville if the Quinn Ewers from the last 2 weeks shows up. So one of the storylines of this game, as we get ready to take some more super chats, he's got to be better. And when we go into the game against Vanderbilt next week, nobody can say what the hell they could possibly know what to expect from Quinn Ewers right now, because once is an accident, 2 times is the beginning of a trend. And for the last 2 weeks, he hasn't played very good football. Yep. And they got away with it against Oklahoma. They didn't get away with it tonight. And, it's disappointing. There's no reason to freak out, right? I'm not showing up to that in the postgame show, calling for his job. I actually think it's really important that Texas handle this loss with some poise, because it really, Georgia lost to Alabama. Is that defining their season tonight? No. Texas can do the exact same kind of thing that Georgia has done, but they still have to do it. There's a lot of work to be done. I think Texas has got to get back up on that horse and go, but Quinn Ewers has to play better. And I don't mean that in a way where it's like, or he will lose his job to Arch Manning. I mean that in the way that this team can't accomplish what it wants to accomplish unless he's elite. He has to be elite. He can't be very good. That's what he was a year ago. And I would offer 7 games into the 2024 season, while this team is performing at a really, really high, they're better than very good in a number of areas, but they're not as it relates to Quinn Ewers' play now. And so, he can be better. We've seen him be better. I expect that he will shake this off, but he never really looked comfortable tonight. I said, and Chad can be a witness to this, before it ever started going sideways. Did you see what I said in our team's chat? I was like, this does not look like the good Quinn.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
It was before Georgia ever scored a point.
Yeah, it was no score. Yeah.
He looks like he's aiming his passes. He doesn't look comfortable. This doesn't look like the good Quinn. And I said that before he ever committed a turnover, before Georgia ever scored a point. You could see in the first two offensive drives of the game, and, look, and you can't completely blame Quinn, but you can't win these types of games if your quarterback doesn't play well. And, fair or not, the quarterback is going to get a lot of attention on a night like tonight. The offensive line's got to be better, and Texas has to run the ball better. You don't help your quarterbacks out when your leading rusher has 52 yards at 3.5 yards a clip. And as a team, when you rush for 29 yards on 27 carries, and granted, a lot of those, there are some sacks in there, a lot of them. At one point, I guess the stat of the night is at halftime, Chad, Georgia had 49 yards in sack yardage, and Texas had 38 yards of offense.
Yeah, it really was headed towards a game where it was going to be a lot of clowning comments towards Texas, just a complete blowout, a decimation. It didn't end that way. They fought back. They put up a fight. But yeah, at the end of that half, it was bleak for Texas. No doubt about it. Texas loses 30-15 to Georgia. Almost 2,200 of you in that Specs chat. We appreciate you. I see 27 super chats, and we appreciate you. Here we go. $4.99 from JC. Texas didn't play at well enough the whole game, but one loss doesn't matter. JC, not that it doesn't matter, but I think we get to your point. That is certainly it is one loss. Obviously, all the goals are still out there in front of them. How about more Canadian money from Uncle Mickey? $13.99 to be specific. Wait, we did that one. Lots of work to do. Yes, we got that one from Uncle Mickey. Thank you, Uncle Mickey. A $4.99 just cuz from Russ. Russ, we appreciate you. Super chat. $4.99. If you want to throw something else in there, we do appreciate you. We got Marcos with a $10 super chat. Got to give it to Georgia. They came out and dominated on the defensive line, and our offensive line couldn't do anything, even with turnovers. We'll see them again in the SEC championship. Hook 'em horns. Catch, it was weird, that 2-for-1 turnover exchange where Beck threw 2 picks, but it was in a part of the field that didn't hurt Georgia as much, and then their defense stood up, whereas that first turnover for Texas occurs at the doorstep, at the 10. And then when Georgia goes in and makes it 7-0, you could kind of feel the air change in the building, but also with the Texas team. And it was a weird little switch there where one turnover can kind of be more important than 2 if it's in the right spot and you do something with it. I thought that was a huge moment.
Yeah, man. Context and details matter. And again, Georgia scores 23 points in the first half, and none of those points were scored on an offensive drive that went longer than 35 yards.
Yeah.
So, I almost, what else is there to say about the first half other than Texas was abysmal? Georgia was so good. And not really in the way that you thought Georgia might frighten you, right? I really thought that Georgia, in order to win this game, would need Carson Beck to just light up the Texas. Well, the Texas secondary was pretty good. Johnny Barron made money tonight. By the way, at some point, we have to have a 5-minute conversation about how Texas fans throwing water bottles onto the field created them getting a call.
Hey, you know what? No, here's what we have to do, Catch. We have to give a weird, slow volleyball clap to the Texas fans, because there's one thing. It's one thing to test out your SEC legs, right? And say, well, it just means more, right? Sometimes fans go crazy, right? Sometimes fans throw things, right? But Catch, I have never seen fans stop a game throwing things and give the officials time to take a call, throw it away, and come up with another call and say, here you go. I've never seen that.
How is there not a 15-yard penalty on Texas?
That's what I thought we were about to get. I thought we were about to get sideline warning, crowd warning. They threw enough objects onto the field that you had to stop the game. Isn't that a penalty? Catch. They flat. Think about this. In this conference, they penalize the school if you rush the field.
I know.
They fine you for rushing the field, but they didn't punish Texas for throwing. Now,
Look,
Texas, it's Texas fans.
We'll circle back on this, Chad.
Yeah, okay.
We'll circle back on it.
I know.
Because we could do an hour on that.
It was bizarre.
And we might do an hour on that on Wednesday, right? Hump day?
It was weird. It was weird. It was very, very weird. All right, I see more super chats here. That one we got. Let's do this one. Bogey King 722 199. Sark can't come back from 14-point deficits. Fact. Bogey King, not a lot of coaches can. You do not want to fall down 14 to anybody, but especially Georgia. You do not want to give Georgia a lead. You certainly don't want to fall down 23-0 to a team like Georgia. $10 super chat from Steven. Sark pulling Quinn was a mistake. It was not a Quinn problem. Catch, I feel like this discussion is going to happen among a lot of Texas fans and different factions, because I don't know if that's where we are now, but different fans are going to look at it different ways. Could you make the argument Steven is making, or did you see it a different way?
Steven, you're wrong. You're way wrong. Quinn was seeing ghosts. He wasn't in the flow of the game. He wasn't seeing the field. He was slow on everything. On the sack that Kelvin Banks gave up in the second quarter, Quinn held on to the ball for 5 seconds. Banks actually threw his guy onto the ground only to not know that Quinn was going to walk into him. He had 17 yards in the first half. He had a negative 25 quarterback rating in the second quarter. This was Chris Sims in Dallas Big 12 championship level needing to save Quinn Ewers. Now, look, Arch didn't change anything, and that allowed Sark to go back to Quinn, and Quinn was able to come back in the third quarter and put together a solid second half, a solid third quarter performance. Quinn was a huge problem in the first half. And I say that knowing that of course he's still the starting quarterback. This was never going to be the night where the Quinn Ewers era came to an end, barring an injury. But he was wretched in the first half. He just wasn't alone in his wretchedness. And it's not like you can you can't be benching first team offensive linemen, because then you'll really be in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, Cam Williams has another penalty. We had 2 of those tonight. Let's put in the backup right tackle. You can't do that. But anybody that shows up tonight saying that Sark was wrong to replace Quinn Ewers is wrong. I gotta be careful with the language. I don't want to insult anybody. They're wildly wrong. It had to happen, but in making the call, Sark didn't get a reward for it. He did the thing he was supposed to do. It had to happen. But Arch didn't have it in him to go out before halftime and get Texas on the scoreboard, which, again, if Arch does that, it's Arch's show in the third quarter. He didn't, and it is the thing that allowed Sarkisian to go, okay, well, if we're going to lose 23-0 at halftime, I'm going to put my guy back in and give him a chance. And I think he got rewarded for that, but Quinn was not – any other player on the field, I think, gets taken off, no matter how good they are, if they're playing at that level. He was awful. We can't rewrite what happened in the first half because of our feelings. Don't do that. Don't, now that the game is over with, pretend that the first half wasn't as bad as it was, or that Quinn again, I read you the numbers earlier. They're awful. That's why I said these are the non-confirmation biased data points. This isn't me adding colorful language to it. This is me telling you mathematically what was happening, and it wasn't remotely good enough.
See a couple of $20 super chats. Let's grab those. And we start with Big Cheddar, 1999. Everybody in this chat's acting like Georgia was some kind of crap team. They're really good. Most of y'all need to calm the F down. We just played bad. It happens. We learned
Georgia
from
was
it.
the best team in the country in the first half of this game tonight. There wasn't anybody in the country that was beating Georgia in the first half tonight. I mean, nothing but credit to them, and credit to them in the second half. You're down 23-15. Your kickoff return guy makes an idiotic decision. He comes out. He gets stuffed at like the 11 or 12 yard line. You're 88 yards away from pay dirt, and they put together a well-executed, well-called offensive drive that culminated with, I don't say that word very often, and now I know. But it's 4th and goal at the 1, and they punched it in. And that capped off a drive where they did, a flea flicker to the tight end, and they converted a 3rd and long, and they made plays. I give Big Cheddar, everybody in the chat probably won't focus on Georgia much tonight. I thought they were great.
Big Cheddar, thank you for that super chat. The other $20 one I saw was this 20 from Angry Hammer. We still go in dry. We still do well in College Station. Nothing I saw tonight changed my mind. Welcome to the SEC betas. This is what we wanted. Now I'm going to go drunk, cry, and go to sleep. All right, Angry Hammer.
I think everybody's calmed down on the Aggies. And look, they weren't great today by any stretch of the imagination. But if you think that it's going to be a Sunday walk in the park when Texas goes to College Station on that night where there could very well be a lot on the line. We no longer live in a world where I don't know. I guess there's still a lot of football to be played. But a week ago, it's like, well, maybe these two teams will play each other back-to-back times. Okay, well, or maybe these two teams, it'll be winner take all in College Station, and maybe Texas wins that game. But to throttle them, the Quinn Ewers that showed up tonight will have problems in College Station.
Angry Hammer, thank you for that. I also see a $10 super chat from Heath. How can you call this Ewers team when he can't rally or actually lead the team? I just don't know where he was at, but one loss isn't going to kill our season. More work to do. Hook 'em emoji. Thank you, Heath.
It's not me or Chad that calls this Ewers his team. It's his head coach and the players around him.
Yeah.
Now, if you might save that super chat, maybe we'll refund you, and you can just, I don't know, tweet at a bunch of guys tonight and ask them that. I don't know what to tell you. Your point's not invalid. But
and Catch, I thought the halftime interview with Sark going in told us what was going to happen. When he said, he was asked about why he went to Arch, and the answer immediately came out, I did it to calm Quinn down. He answered with Quinn's name. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, he'll go back to Quinn then. Okay. So this was
he did it as much to calm himself down too. Sark did not have a good first half.
No,
he Smart was all over everything that Sarkisian had lined up.
Yeah, I was waiting to see which offensive coordinator was gonna loosen up first, and it ended up being Bobo because of the Georgia defense. Because the Georgia defense was able to give him a good field position, as you talked about earlier, and he was able to kind of loosen up a little bit. By the time Sark loosened up as a play caller, it was too late. It was too big a deficit. You can't try to chase 23 in this. I don't care if you're at home. You can't try to chase 23 in an SEC game against a big dog like that. I wouldn't even advise it against a little dog, but really don't try it against that team. It's not going to work. Thank you.
And look, this shouldn't be the let's bash Quinn Ewers for 2 hours show, because there was a lot about, again, I didn't think Steve Sarkisian was good in the first half. I don't think he helped Quinn Ewers at all. Mm-hmm. But, this team will be able to share in the first half not being good enough. There's a lot of guys that could have played better. And even on the defensive side of the ball, they didn't stop the run well at all. Now, Leona comes in last week and has a big game, and was really impressive and has been good this season. But they start him tonight, and he got mauled in the running game. By the end of the first half, there was suddenly David Benda was playing a little bit more. Suddenly there was some linebacker rotation. Sometimes we still need to remember that this is still a fairly young team. A lot of sophomores in the lineup, a lot of freshmen in the lineup. And tonight, I thought some of the young guys reminded us, okay, well, they're not in their prime years yet. And Georgia probably has more guys in their prime years than Texas does. And I think that showed tonight. I mean, they looked like they more mature, been there, done that team than Texas did. And Texas paid the price for that.
We want to thank you guys. I'm looking at 29 super chats. So if you send us a super chat, don't think we're not seeing them, but I see 29 of them lined up. So thank you so much for those. Also, shout out to TCH Social Austin. The floor is rolling. They're out there. Screens are going. That big giant screen is where we watched it over there in the background, and they are playing. And if you want in on that Trailblazer tournament, they've got a chance for you in the morning, a Sunday morning.
I see some burnt orange jerseys playing poker.
Heck yeah, you do.
They're like, I'm done with football today. Let me go play some cards.
That is it. And catch one of our favorite waitresses from last week, the lovely Morgan. She was rocking an Arch Manning jersey, interestingly enough. Tonight, when I saw her, it's like, oh, okay. K-State last week, Arch Manning this week, and Arch ends up in the game against Georgia. So kind of interesting. So shout out to TCH Social. Shout out to all you guys. Anwar's coming up from DKR here on the postgame show. Let's continue rolling through these super chats. Sean with a 5 spot. Gunnar Helm's last catch at least won me $100. The O-line got outplayed. Sean, small victories can be a good thing. And I hope that was a nice catch, by the way, by Gunnar Helm for all those NFL scouts that were in the house tonight. Sean, we hope you did more than just win the 100. Maybe you won a little more.
I did not.
I did not either. Heath, thank you for that $9.99 as well as your other super chat. We appreciate that. We're rolling through here. $1.99. Banks and Cam Williams don't want to see Georgia again, according to J Harv 07.
I didn't think Banks was terrible in this game. I thought the sack that he gives up, the strip sack, that was legit the one play where I was like, okay, he got beat on that play. But even then, Ewers held the ball for more than 3 seconds. I don't know from a pass protection standpoint, what are your expectations for offensive linemen?
I mean,
Ewers held the ball a lot tonight. And that was, I think in the first half, that was the problem of the game. He wasn't making quick decisions.
It's a good question, Ketch. So if I'm up in that press box tonight and I got one of those nice NFL golf shirts on and I got the logo on the left breast because I'm a scout, do I see that play as a badass left tackle had a horrible play? Do I see that as a badass DN? He just got beat.
He got beat by an NFL player.
Right.
But on the other sack that he gave up, Quinn Ewers held on the ball for 5 seconds. Okay. He literally threw his guy into the ground, and then Ewers stumbled into him. What more do you want from your left tackle than for him to hold a guy for 5 seconds and then finish the play off by throwing him into the ground?
Yeah.
You know what? Everybody, it was one of them nights, even for Kelvin Banks.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
I think there will be people that come out now. Look, Cam's got to play better, but I didn't watch Kelvin Banks tonight and think that this was some sort of expose of his skill level. Now, he did get beat in this game, but I thought he more than, again, every time the offensive line got into trouble early in the game, Quinn's holding the ball too long. He's holding the ball too long. And then the thing that happened in this game, Chad, is that about midway through the first quarter, they realized Ewers is seeing ghosts. And at that point, Georgia started bringing more men. They started getting more aggressive with their blitz packages. Guys started pinning their ears back. And it just kind of is what it is. I don't even know what to say about the first half. I almost feel guilty about repeating some of the same things over and over and over again. It just wasn't good enough, period. And I think that when we look ahead to the future, because this is a Texas team that very much is still in the SEC championship game mix, although they're going to play a lot better if they want to mix it up with Georgia. Obviously, they're still in the playoff mix. I think they still have another mulligan to get into the playoffs, but they can't win the biggest games they're going to play in this season without much better play at the quarterback position. And I'm officially worried about Quinn Ewers.
All right. Lots of super chats ready to roll. It's right after the Quinn Ewers comment. This one, catch 199 JC. I think Ewers showed he's not QB1. Is that too extreme a reaction to what we saw?
Yes, because Quinn's very good. But the assignment for him before this season is over with is to not just be very good. He is the catalyst on offense for everything that Texas is going to do one way or the other. It's not going to be the running game. It's not going to be Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue. It's going to be Quinn Ewers' right arm. Yeah. And on a night when he's miserable like he was in the first half, surprise, Texas was shut out. So, no, let's not say he's not QB1. Most of the schools across the country would cut off a finger or a hand or an arm or something to get QB1 like Quinn. But, these are the moments he has to be at his best, and he just wasn't tonight. And the UTSA games and the La Monroe performances, those or what, and it's the same for Arch. Like when you talk about those types of games, doesn't do you any good to be really good in those if you shit the bed in these kind of moments. And that happened tonight. The quarterback position just in general wasn't good enough.
It'll be fascinating to talk to Anwar coming up here from DKR to see what did Sark talk about in that post game that jumps out to him. We'll get you that. Obviously, more super chats coming up, including Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. $9.99. We appreciate you guys. Over 2,600 of you in the Specs chat. We got Brian as well. How about $4.99? One, Quinn has had happy feet the last two games. He looks lost at times. Two, Sark had no sense of urgency in that time-killing drive when they needed points.
Brian, great super chat. And if I may, I don't know what the hell is going on with the lack of urgency in the final 8 minutes of this game. At one point, Texas got a gift. They went back and reviewed a targeting call, and they called it, and they put 7:15 on the clock. 50 seconds went off the clock before, and part of that was Cam Williams had a false start. But Texas, in taking its time, let almost an entire minute off the clock. Let me look it up real quick. I wrote it down because it drove me crazy. There was 7:06 remaining when they called the penalty. They put 7:06 on the clock. By the time the next play was run, 6:15 was remaining.
Wow.
And the whole drive was like that. And then when you don't end up with points, if you're going to be that deliberate and you're like, look, we can't worry about the time, we have to worry about scoring, then you have to score. Because if you don't score, all you did was run a bunch of time off the clock. So, again, I don't think that's all quarterback. I think some of that's got to be on your coaching staff. Mm-hmm. That's on team preparation. That is, your right tackle can't be jumping off sides. The team has to have. There was just a real lack of urgency at that point. And when they didn't get points, I guess that drive ended on the pass to Wingo where Wingo falls down. When that happens and you've run 3 or 4 minutes off the clock with no urgency, all you've done is help Georgia end the game. And I tell you what, Georgia wildly goes for it on fourth down inside their own 40-yard line.
Oh, my God.
A little bit more than 2 minutes to go in the game. They give Texas an opportunity. If Texas scores there, let's say there's a minute left in the game. That deliberate lack of urgency in the middle of the fourth quarter would be part of the reason if you did score in that moment, there wouldn't be enough time left on the clock to really have a lot of options other than a desperate onside kick. But if there's 2 or 3 minutes to go on the clock, now Georgia's got to sweat a little bit. And I think the story of this game was that Texas gave Georgia a scare, but they never made Georgia fear for their life. And I think that's why Georgia wins this game by 2 touchdowns.
Brian, thank you for that super chat. To your first point, Quinn's feet have had issues the last couple of weeks. There's no doubt about it. But how do you fix feet at this point? He's just going to have to make some better throws.
He's not seeing the field.
He's not, and his feet aren't helping him out. So I mean, it's all been bad at times for him on some key throws. TP 499. You have to credit Georgia. They played like a pack of wild dogs tonight. Texas D played pretty well. Catch the story of the week leading up is that Georgia, like you talked about the mulligan Texas got tonight, Georgia had already had it, and that desperation theory was probably going to take over. They played desperate. They played with a little more anger and a little more hunger. And I mean,
their season's probably over if they lose tonight.
And they were head cracking, man. This was a physical game, both sides of it. Kirby Smart, the War Room, your report this week in the War Room at orangebloods.com said that folks on the Georgia side thought they could be more physical than Texas. Ultimately, do you think they were right?
Yes.
Right? I mean, that is one of the things they proved tonight. They proved tonight they were more physical than Texas for those 4 quarters, no doubt.
And I think in a rematch, that will be one of the big tests of this game is in a rematch, we know where Texas will have to be better. And it's not just quarterback.
No.
Right.
Yep.
So
not just that issue. It's a good point. How about a 10 spot from Mike D? O-line had more to do with this loss than Quinn, but my goodness, can we talk about some of those throws? Quinn doesn't throw with conviction. It's a problem. Thoughts? L doesn't kill the dream, but...
Well, Mike, I'm super confused. On one hand, the offensive line had more to do with this loss than Quinn, but on the other hand, my goodness, can we talk about some of those throws? Yes and yes. Look, the offensive line's got to be better. They did not win their battle tonight, but they started losing their battles with Quinn being completely out of the game. Because I'm telling you, if you go back and think about the first quarter, not a whole lot was happening. It was a little bit of back and forth, both teams feeling each other out. It felt like a prize fight where, first 2 or 3 rounds, nothing really happens. Georgia almost scored, but then there's the turnover. There's the 2 turnovers, right? So, but eventually Quinn's inability to do anything. Let me just, again, because in the event there's any confusion, Quinn Ewers was 6 of 12 in the first half for 17 yards and a pick. That's not, if we want to talk about the fumbles and the sacks, we want to put that on the offensive line. Okay. I'm okay with that, I guess, to some extent, if we'll at least acknowledge that Quinn was holding the ball too long. But when Quinn was throwing the ball, it was all over the place. Mm-hmm. And it's Sarkisian's responsibility to get the ball to his best players. It took too late in the game to get Gunnar Helm involved. We talked about Ryan Wingo this week. There wasn't a whole lot of that. It was just one of those nights, man. Everything was bad. And I guess until we sign off, it's going to be one repetitive, yep, it sucked.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Yeah, speaking of over, thank you for over 2,800 folks in the Specs chat. We appreciate you, and we see all these super chats. We are going to get to them. Anwar will join us from DKR. Thank you to, again, Mike D for that one. Also, thanks to Barb's 10. I did get a chance to see Barb's 10 tonight. $9.99. Chad, good chatting with you. Spoke to your parents before I left. Great folks. Thank you, Barb's 10. I appreciate you. I'm glad you and my parents didn't get in a fight at TCH Social Austin. That would have been embarrassing. Good thing it only counts as one loss. Aggie in-laws are blowing up my phone. UT overrated and quarterback controversy incoming. Thank you, Barb's 10, for that.
It's really important that Quinn not have this happen again. What do we do if next week it's the same performance? One good quarter inside of 4 altogether, not really. He's got to play better. He just has to. Otherwise, we will get to a point where the conversation will become real. And look, Sarkisian scolded an Austin American-Statesman reporter this week for asking the question of, hey, what would have to happen in order for Arch to come in the game? And he scolded Thomas Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And then he does it in the second quarter, 2 days later.
And he did it, Catch, in a situation where, I mean, the kind of the stuff we had talked about, right? Like, I think I laid the scenario out last week, and I think I said 10-0 Georgia. And I can't remember, was it 10-0 or 17-0 when he did it? Or was it 20-0? Anyway, whatever it was. But I laid it out, and I said, okay, Georgia's up. Georgia's up. He's not looking good. The offense isn't scoring, and he has a couple bad throws. What happens then? The crowd's going to start to murmur and rumble and maybe rabble, and you're going to be in a text chain with some people that might go, what about Arch? I think Arch. There were people over here at TCH Social Austin. I heard Arch's name. Arch. Like the birds in Finding Nemo. But the issue was Sark. Didn't matter what any of the rest of us thought. It's what was Sark going to do? And then he made the move. So, yeah, the next Monday press conference, that's going to be fun. That's going to be interesting to see what Sark decides to do with the next round of media discussion. Maybe he deals with it tonight. We'll see when Anwar joins us. But, yeah, it should be interesting to see how he deals with it moving forward. Barb's 10, thank you for that super chat. Let's slide this one in from Jamari, $1.99. Quinn was bad, but that O-line was atrocious tonight. Those seem to be the two focus areas, Catch. Quinn, offensive line. Offensive line, Quinn. Which was worse? Which cost them more? That seems to be the two big issues on fans' minds tonight.
Well, I think those are the type of things that fans say when their quarterback is awful, because otherwise, what are your alternatives? Nobody wants to walk away from tonight putting their head on a pillow thinking, well, we got a quarterback who's not good enough. Because that kind of sucks for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So you spread it out. You maybe make the offensive line a bigger problem than the quarterback, and maybe you can put your head on a pillow. And I don't know. I can just tell you from my perspective, I did not think the offensive line was good tonight, but I thought things spiraled out of control because of the quarterback. That in the end, Georgia fed off of Ewers' indecisiveness and whatever words we want to use to describe what was happening, and it compounded the problem. That, we went from a place where they got a sack when Kelvin Banks threw a guy onto the ground and Quinn kind of stumbled into him, to there's suddenly started to be problems all over the place as time went on. But I didn't think the real breakdown started until after Georgia was well on their way to a big first half lead.
Thank you for that super chat. Real quick, Catch, running back wise, does Texas have an RB1? What do you think of Wisner in this game? Blue, I can't believe Blue didn't have a carry. Is that correct? Did I see that correctly? I think
you did not. Yes, you saw that correctly. As things currently stand, Texas doesn't have an RB1.
Okay.
2 weeks ago, it felt like they only believed in Jaden Blue. 2 weeks later, it feels like they don't believe in Jaden Blue at all as a running back. I don't think Trey Wisner is a elite level running back. I think Texas very well may need to go into the portal next year and find a starter. Because when you look at, and oh, by the way, I mean, they don't play Jarrett Gibson at all, and it can't just be about pass protection.
Right.
So you got guys coming off of injuries, big injuries. You've got players who aren't playing well. And I'm reminded, one of the wild what-if moments of this offseason going into this season, Chad, in retrospect, is in December, there were a lot of rumors that Boise State's Ashton Jeanty was going to enter the portal. And that if he did, Texas would be the school that he would want to look into. Now, it ended up not happening, but for about 48 to 72 hours, I was making calls to Boise reporters. I'm trying to find out as much information as I can. You're hearing these whispers, and he ends up staying put, but they lack that kind of a guy right now. And I'll be honest, I don't think a healthy CJ Baxter changes a whole lot tonight. We've yet to see proof that CJ Baxter is a real plus elite level running back at this level. It's one of the things that we were robbed of this season, was finding out exactly what CJ Baxter is. Not too different than what's happened at Texas A&M with Reuben Owens. I mean, Reuben Owens will go into next year, and I don't know that A&M will know what the hell they have. The difference is A&M has lost Reuben Owens, and Le'Veon Moss has stepped up and been one of the best running backs in the SEC. So they've in that injury, their situation is a little bit like the Chris Warren, Deontay Foreman deal, right? Guy gets hurt, and the other guy that's left turns out to be the superior player by a lot. Opportunities have made themselves available for Texas running backs. And they, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Trey Wisner on a different night will be better, but he, tonight on a field full of guys that will play in the NFL, he looked less athletic than those guys. He's not a better receiver out of the backfield than Blue. So he has to make his hay as a running back. I thought he had a couple of moments, but I think they may need to go into the portal, Chad.
Heath with a 1999 super chat. My last comment with a smiley face. After the game, Kirby said, quote, "We didn't come here for photos or bells and whistles. We came to eat and came in hungry. That was the difference. Georgia looked like old school Bama under Saban." Oh, well, I wouldn't go that far. This was needed. I'm not sure if I'd quite describe Georgia that way. They went on the road and turned the ball over 3 times. That's not exactly what Saban teams did. But they did feel hungrier, Catch. There's no doubt about that.
No, they were better.
Yeah.
They played with it. And it's really hard because I think the Texas defense played with a sense of urgency. The Texas offense was just one gigantic abortion tonight. Again, let me repeat this stat. Georgia had more yards, 49, in sacks in the first half than Texas had yards total offense.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to talk about. Again, this really does remind me of one of these old Cowboy games where Romo's a disaster for a quarter or two, and then they come roaring back, but then they lose the game, and then we go, oh, yeah, you really can't get away with turning the ball over and doing nothing in the first half. That actually matters.
That's a reminder. Yeah, and I heard a lot of that, Catch, here at TCH Social Austin. A lot of people with that idea of you got to have a better start, 4 quarters, all that kind of stuff. And then the same thing we've seen in the chat about the start of the game that they had tonight. JC, 1999.
Real quick, I'll give you another metaphor.
Yeah.
It's like in those war movies or the police movies where the cop gets shot in the chest and he still takes out a few people. He gives, dare I say, a valiant effort, but he dies. And then we go then what do we say afterwards? Like, oh yeah, you know what? Getting shot in the chest, that's not good for winning. And yeah, the first time I ever saw it in a movie, Chad, Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds. You've got, Bernie Casey is like the police officer in that movie, and he gets shot in the chest. And at the end, he's laying on the ground and he's telling Burt Reynolds, just go on without me. It's like, yeah, he might take out a few more guys, but he got shot in the chest. He's going to die.
Yeah.
And he did, because he was on the 50th floor and they couldn't get paramedics. Did you ever see Sharky's Machine where the bad guy falls out of the window at the end?
I did not. Thanks for the spoiler, though. No, I don't need to see it.
That movie's like 50 years old. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it'll happen. While you were talking, I was going to put JC Super Chat up, but then this happened. Oscar's dad, welcome in, 99.99. Big money wins. Bottom line, Quinn was not ready. He was nervous and never gained control of his offense. Arch was more athletic, but was scared to death. Neither one of them have never experienced the speed and strength of hold on. Did we get the rest of that?
Probably not, because that's a paragraph.
Yeah, that's a lot. I didn't see.
But I think we know what you were saying, the speed and strength of a defense like Georgia. Yeah. I did not think Arch was scared. I think Arch was put in maybe an impossible position, because by that point, Georgia had all of the momentum. By the time Arch comes in, Georgia is eaten, and they are unafraid of the Texas offensive line anymore. I think that Arch looked like a guy who came into the game behind an offensive line that wasn't playing well, but at that point in the game, he wasn't good, but I didn't think he was scared. And I don't think Quinn was scared. I don't think scared. He may have been nervous, but I think Quinn was scared. I just don't think he was seeing it. I think he was completely lost, and that is not the same as scared.
Oscar's dad, thank you very much for that 99.99. We cannot thank you enough. We appreciate you for jumping in.
At 99.99.
Absolutely. Oscar, your dad, you're both welcome. You got all that going on in there. And by the way, the Oscar did jump in. I don't know if this is Oscar or the dad. This is $4.99. Maybe the son doesn't have as much money. What's going on, Oscar? Take away Sark's private jet access, says Oscar. We appreciate you in there. This is the one I was going to put up earlier, $19.99 from JC. Thank you, JC. Want your opinion, Chad and Catch. But do you think if Sark was going to bench Quinn and put in Arch, you think Sark should have stuck with Arch the whole game? So, Catch, as you watched Arch's performance, did you have the sense of, okay, if you're going to go this way, you got to let 16 take those shots downfield and start to call different plays and use those feet? Or did you have the sense of this is just to let Quinn calm down?
Look, at halftime, I'm going to answer the question like this. At halftime, I had one real thought. This game needs to end, and there can't be a quarterback controversy because they're losing the game. They're losing the game. So for the rest of the season, the cloud can't hang over this team from week to week. Who's going to start at quarterback? The thing that Quinn was able to do in the third quarter was play at a high enough level where I think the questions of what happens next week were answered. But it's like a stay of execution because he has to play better or we'll end up in a point where this pops back up again, potentially as early as next week. And that's why it's imperative that Quinn plays better, because I think if it happens again, it might be Arch's show moving forward. That if you're Sark, how many you can only give Quinn so many. And look, Sark might turn around and say, as far as I'm concerned, this is the first time this season we've seen that from Quinn. I don't look at tonight and think that was anything like last week. He may, what he says publicly, I'm sure will be very strong in support of Quinn. But if you keep doing this enough times, the mob will take over. And the mob, had he not put an Arch in, I think we almost have to reverse engineer this. What does this look? What does our conversation look like if at halftime he hadn't made the switch? It means coming out of halftime, he probably does have to make the switch. And that probably means that Arch gets the entire, unless Arch comes in and just is a disaster. But if you make the call at halftime to go to Arch, that to me is different than in the middle of the game making an in-game decision. Quinn did enough that this program can take a breath and not have to worry too much, I think, about the conversation and just how crazy this week it might get. But if it happens again, everything will happen again. And I think deep down, there will be a lot of Texas fans that have fairly low confidence in going into next week. I think Sark will have a very high level of confidence. What is Quinn Ewers' confidence level in himself? Because I would say even when he played well in the third quarter, I didn't see a player. The only time I saw Quinn Ewers tonight play with confidence, that ball he throws to Jaden Blue on the touchdown, that was Quinn Ewers at his best.
That was a good ball.
But in the plays before and after that, he aimed, he missed throws, he left plays on the field. I mean, one of his best plays of the night is the ball early in the third quarter to Matthew Golden, where he underthrows it, and Golden has to come fighting back for it and makes a great catch. And then
that was a nice catch.
It was another reminder, yeah, Quinn actually does suck throwing the deep ball. That at some point, that Alabama game was a season and a half ago.
All right, I am seeing that looks like Anwar is just about ready to go from DKR. Thank you to over 3,000 of you in the Specs chat. We're going to try to get to as many of these super chats as we can. I am staring at 25 of them, so please understand we're looking at that kind of a pile.
35. Woo!
Yeah. It is the post-game show brought to you by the Lowy Law Firm. Shout out to Lowy Law Firm. Shout out to TCH Social. Real quick, before we talk to Anwar, let's just show you one more time. Let's show you once again. Hey, they're out there. There's the floor. The floor is active. Floor's active. They're watching games. They're playing cards. If you haven't been out here to TCH Social Austin, you want to get in on the Trailblazer tournament, they can get you in there tomorrow morning. Check them out. TCH Social Austin 183 and Anderson Mill. All right. Let's see if we can get this done. Anwar, give me 1 second here, just making sure I get everything the way we need it. Onair Richardson live from DKR. There he is, looking sharp as always. Anwar, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you. We hear you.
Well, that's good. It's a change from my show on Friday, so this is a good start.
Mike is hot. We hear
perfect.
Well, let us know your thoughts there from the stadium, and well, I guess we'll start with kind of what Sark had to say after 30-15 losing to Georgia.
Well, just the quick portion of it is that he said Andrew Makuba has a knee injury. They need to assess that, and he'll get back to us on that. That was the only injury that he mentioned as far as post game is concerned. As far as the bigger issue, and I'm sure the top that you guys have talked about for a while was Quinn, and I did ask him about that, what went into that process. Essentially he just went into Quinn just wasn't seeing the field the way that he needed to be seeing it. He felt basically the need to almost have him like recalibrate and take some time off and then come back in. At the end of the day, he kind of let it be known that going forward that Quinn is his starter. He appreciates everything that Arch did in that game, but Quinn is his guy going forward. And there's not going to be any kind of quarterback controversy or anything to that effect. He said Quinn obviously needed to play better. He said everybody else needed to play better as well. But he did not shy away from saying that, Quinn definitely did struggle within this game. Again, not putting it all on him because obviously the offensive line struggled as well. And that's something that, he said he's going to have to go back and look at the film, said everything he had from was field level. He'll have a better assessment, especially of Quinn, and if there were throws that were missed, things to that effect, when he actually gets a chance to look at the film from up top. So the big thing was the admission. And then the second thing too, Catch, you'll appreciate this. I mentioned something I think earlier this week, and there's certain things that give you the like PTSD, and thank God this one happens, was it week 8, but we got the all of our goals are still ahead of us thing from some and
Take a drink.
Catching that. Now the good part is, Catch, typically that usually would come after the first non-conference game, right? So we're further down the line, because we definitely have heard it by the time before we even got to OU. So at least from a progress standpoint, we haven't heard that since then. He did say they would love to have another crack at Georgia later, at some point this season. But he did reiterate, I want to say probably at least 3 times, that all their goals are still in front of them. So those are kind of the biggest takeaways before we go too far down the hole, and I'll let you guys react to that.
Catch.
I think all of that's what we expected on War. It's exactly what I expected him to say. We've talked about it during the postgame show, that was I think what we should all expect. And I even mentioned on War, for me at halftime, the game was over as far as I was concerned. Even if Texas ended up making it a game, I felt they're not coming back from 23-0 down. They may give them a run, but I didn't think that they were going to win the game. So what needed to happen? What needed to happen was that Quinn would come back into the game and play well enough that there's not the question next week, with 5 regular season games to go, this cloud of from week to week, who's the starting quarterback. This team's got too much upside. They can accomplish too much. It doesn't need that. They do need Quinn to play better. But I thought, boy, if they can get out of this game without, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all of us wondering who's starting at quarterback, then I think that would be a moral victory inside of this game. And it is what happened. In the end, Quinn plays really well in the third quarter, not so much in the fourth quarter, but the third quarter performance and getting this team back in the game, throwing for a couple of touchdown passes. It allows Sark to say that in the postgame with a straight face and without everybody rolling their eyes. And I think with so much still left in front of this team in theory, I think that's really important.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like 100%, Catch. And he felt like Quinn played better in the second half, and he felt like he battled in the second half. And so he definitely feels like it was a stronger performance. But one of the things that, he was asked, and, he says, he doesn't have the answer for right now, though, is that in 2 straight weeks, this team has started slow, especially in the first half. Like that's now become a thing. Like that happened against Oklahoma. That has happened here, against Georgia. And so, that's something that they've got to figure out. He's got to figure out what is happening, with this team and why they're not getting. He's like, of course, we want to get out to a fast start, right? But that has not happened. And so that's something he's got to figure out with Vanderbilt coming up, around the corner. It's going to be a tough team. And then, of course, the backstretch of those games, those things, of course, he was asked about Jaden Blue, why didn't Jaden Blue get a carry? And, he was like, well, it was kind of in the plan to give him a carry, but he's like, it just got out of hand. And then it's funny, our guy, Terry, he asked, Gunnar Helm, 6 catches in the second half. Was the plan to get him the ball a little bit more in the first half, or they just take it away from him? And Sark is like, I don't think anybody got the ball really in the first half. So he goes, I don't know who, and not a single person. So they've definitely have to figure that portion out, and then of course get Quinn somehow recalibrated.
Interesting.
Hold on.
Wow.
I just saw a Kirby Smart quote that made me laugh out loud. This is really good. I'm sorry, it's completely random, but
Okay.
Kirby said, quote, "I will say that now you've set a precedent that you throw a bunch of stuff on the field and endanger athletes, you get what you want," end quote.
Yeah, Kirby went off on them. ESPN. Like he was definitely, he was dropping bombs after the game because he was. Now he's not wrong. What happened today? Yeah. What happened today was somewhat unprecedented. Okay, so that was an unprecedented event.
I was going to say, Anwar, you've watched a lot of football games. I have never seen that play out exactly. And if I was Kirby Smart and Georgia had lost that game, I think I would have driven to Birmingham and found Greg Sankey and had a really long discussion. Like, really?
He said afterwards, the refs try to cheat us out of this game.
Wow.
That's a direct quote.
That is one of the wildest sequences I've ever seen at a game.
No, to answer your question, go ahead, Catch. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Anwar, we thought they were going to throw a flag on the crowd. And they came out of the huddle giving Texas the ball.
Isn't that what they're supposed to do, Anwar? Like, can't you call it?
They're supposed to be a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. That was supposed to happen. But what's crazy is that they lined the ball up to snap the ball, and then the stuff goes on the field, or the water bottles go on the field. So then they're like, oh, we got to take some time to get these water bottles off the field. And then they come back, they're like, nah. You're like, wait, I've never seen anything like that.
And Anwar, correct me if I'm wrong, they could have taken, I guess, I've never seen it, but they could have taken away the defensive pass interference and then just allowed the play to happen. But they took away the DPI and added an OPI, didn't they?
I believe so. I can't remember that whole sequence. It started getting a little bit wild. So
I'll admit it was kind of loud in here where we were watching. So I was trying to listen to the official make the call, but it was, you talk about eyes bug out of your head. You guys saw what was happening on our chat, on the OB chat. My wife never texts me during games, fellas. My wife texted me. They reversed that call like instantly. Yeah. It was just one of those moments that you just couldn't believe what you'd seen.
Kirby was pumping up the us versus them, everyone doubts you thing all week long. And that just gave more fuel to his ammunition of, look at how what they're doing to us. But it was I think it was interesting. Sark talked about, like from a defensive perspective, he's like, number 13, he said he only played like 9 snaps in the previous week. And it's like, well, he's pretty darn good. Obviously he's healthy. He's like, obviously he's healthy. And of course, number 11, we looked like the second coming of Ray Lewis out there today, Catch. What's funny is, Catch, I had, Dash, obviously from the UGA site. And it's funny because I had him on my show this week and he was telling me like, man, this defensive line has not played well at all. Like they just have not been good. And so I was like, oh, okay. I saw him afterwards. He was on the field. I was like, what was all that you said? He goes, I haven't seen this all year long. This defense has not played this good all year long. He was shocked at how much success that defensive line had against the Texas offensive line because he said they hadn't looked that good all year long. And even Sark said, hey, they just, we knew we knew they was going to do certain things. He said they were good at disguising some coverages, and that added to a little bit of confusion as relates to Quinn. But I don't think anybody expected the defense to play this well.
Hey guys, I'm looking at it. I think this is interesting. Quinn Ewers in the post game availability mentioned that the strained oblique is still there, is there, that it's still an issue, and basically came out of the postgame letting the media know that he's not playing at 100%. So it's interesting because I do think that makes me want to ask more questions about next week. That, the injury's still there, and Quinn's telling us that that's still a thing. So it's still a thing next week. And if so, does he need to play? Because he hasn't, if he's I don't know, if he's indicating that is part of what the last 2 weeks have been about, it gives me more questions than answers, Anwar.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And and again, sometimes I always go back to what is your famous saying about sometimes an excuse is I always forget it.
It's so easy too. Sometimes an excuse is just the reason why something happens.
Yeah, and so it's just it's interesting. I kind of wish he would have not have said it today because it almost sounds conveniently placed because we weren't talking about the injury being an issue after the OU game. And like that didn't come up. And like now it comes. And even if it did, I just wish the timing of it's kind of like too convenient, I guess, to say it. Like, it's not. Again, I wasn't there for the Q&A. Like I'm up here, so I missed that portion of it. But it's kind of like, it's just, maybe there is something to that. To your point, if he's not 100%, then I guess Sark is saying whatever the percentage that he's at is still going to be better than 100% of Arch, because that's what the math boils down to, is this percentage of Quinn is right now is better than that percentage of Arch. So, that's where we're at from that. But it's weird, but he for the third quarter, he looked better. Like the third quarter, he looked good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the fourth quarter kind of resembled a little bit more of the first half. But the third quarter, you're like, I was like, oh snap, here we go. He's making quick throws, he's quick decisions, he's not holding on to the ball, and he's not just taking a sack where he just falls over a guy. Like I felt like he was back in rhythm. So that portion is really interesting to hear that.
Anwar, did you think you were going to see Arch in that third quarter, or did you think he was going back to Quinn?
I thought he was. Yeah, I thought he had to go back to Quinn because if you don't play him in the second half, then it's over at that point.
Then you've lost
you've lost him. You've shattered his confidence. You can rebound and say, okay, hey, you only sat out for a small portion of the game. I just didn't want to get you right and this and that. Like I did it to help you, right? It's the Jaden Blue. Hey, you fumbled, and so I kind of took you out. The only difference is he took out Jaden Blue and basically he hasn't gone back to him as a running back since. He went back to Quinn because at that point, then you go all chips in with Arch. Now, here's the deal. I also feel like this because another portion of it is if Arch went out and lit up the world, it might have made his decision a little easier to say, well, I'm going to stick with Arch. But because Arch didn't go out and light up the world, then at that point, it's easier to just say, all right, I'm going to go back to Quinn. Now, if Arch went out and first play touchdown, come back on the next drive, touchdown, and you're like, oh, snap. And, he's looking at that guy like we saw earlier this year. Then of course he stays with him, right? But that's probably logic. Like if Arch gets him back in a game, does he and it's tie going into halftime? Is it like time to go back to Quinn, or does he say, well, we need to stay with the hot hand?
If Arch scores any points in either of his two drives, he has to come out at the start of the third quarter. Him not made it easy for Sark. But the other thing I mentioned Anwar right before you came on was that there's a universe out there. It's the Hudson Card Arkansas game where it's not, maybe that's not even a good parallel because Card got to play the opening drive in the third quarter, but you go in at halftime and then you make the move, then you have to stay with Arch the rest of the game. And then coming out of the game, you're getting all of those questions. And I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle no matter how hard you try. but that Arch came in when he didn't have success. They go into halftime, and then it just made it really easy for Quinn to come back out. And then the thing that saved Sark's bacon is that Quinn did play really well in the third quarter. Let me give you the quarterback ratings. I know you love these, Anwar.
Mm-hmm.
First quarter, 80.4 quarterback rating, which isn't even good in the NFL, but in college, that's not good.
Oh, that's not good at all.
In the second quarter, he was negative 25. In the event that you were wondering, can a guy be negative 25 in quarterback rating? It will happen if you go 1 of 4 for 0 yards and an interception. Third quarter, he's 7 of 10 for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns, 211.6.
Coming back.
So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, 12 of 21 for 104 yards, 98.7 rating. So in 3 of the 4 quarters, he was below 100. And then in one of them, he was really, really good. It actually is kind of similar to the Oklahoma game from a week ago where, and maybe that's a little harsh in the second half, but they really didn't ask him to do a whole lot in the second half. He wasn't good in the first quarter, really good in the second quarter. And then in the end, his performance, because they win, is kind of defined by that second quarter. That's, hey, to the victor go the spoils. When you lose, they pay more attention to those other 3 quarters. But I think, again, the third quarter was so good. I do think Sark shows up on Monday and doesn't have to deal. He may have to deal with, is your quarterback okay? Should he be playing? Not because he's not the starter, but because I'm looking at more and more comments that I'm looking at Dennis De La Pena from Fox 7, who also reports that Quinn went out of his way to say that the abdominal strain is still bothering him.
Yeah.
Okay. So on Monday, Sark, your quarterback told us this. If he's not playing well, is that because of this? Did you put him in too early? Have y'all rushed him back? Like, I do think that Quinn himself has opened up a can of worms. This falls into the category of like, just sometimes don't say stuff. And, maybe when you go into the off season, you can say, oh, I came back. I actually wasn't even healthy. But in real time, again, I think there will be some questions that Sark has to answer on Monday, but I don't think it will be, is there a quarterback controversy? I think the question will now be, are you sure that Quinn is like good enough, healthy enough to play on Saturday? Because after the game this Saturday, he's indicating that maybe he wasn't.
Catch, you got something else for Anwar? Do we need to start chopping through these super chats?
Oh, man, chop, 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 chop.
I'm staring at 29 of them. Let's start with, he's going for the corner, $4.99. Georgia Road underdogs after being told they sucked all week. CGD, always CGD. Bury the game ball. We're on to Vandy. Help me, guys. CGD?
Coach Greg Davis. I don't know who's.
I don't know what CGD. Always a distraction.
College game day.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. College game day. Well done. Good job, Catch. Good job. Volleyball
Always
class.
a distraction, except when it's not.
Always a distraction.
That's
yeah.
I mean, there was only like 2 guys. There was only one person who was interviewed. That was Sark. Like that was
Sark.
it.
Yeah.
And there's nobody else. But they didn't have the players avoiding practice to do it.
Yeah, no reason to bury a football. It was just a bad game. It wasn't.
If you say that college game day is always a distraction, you're saying your program's not ready for prime time.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, it didn't seem to be a distraction for Alabama for all those years, and it didn't seem to be a distraction for Georgia in those years either. So they seem to be okay with when game day came to town.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, JC with a $4.99. Yes, they did put Arch in like, hey, we need you to do something. Too much pressure for Arch at that moment. Do you guys think Arch looked like he was trying, couldn't deal with the pressure? Anwar, what did you make of kind of his time in the game and how he handled it?
Honestly, he played against a defense that was balling today. Like I can't say there. It's not like you put him in against an inferior team and you said to yourself like, "Oh, this guy can't handle the pressure." We saw dudes who were balling out of control today. Like that looked like that Georgia team that won national championships. They didn't look like the Mississippi State team or the Kentucky team or anything like that. I mean, the only person that looked kind of somewhat average was the quarterback. Outside of that, that defense was balling. So I don't think Arch wasn't ready. I think Georgia was ready, and I think that was the big difference.
And Chad, he came in at the peak of Georgia's momentum. Now, when he comes into the game, it's 20-0, and they've got Texas on tilt a little bit. So it's a rough spot. Really unfair for anybody. It doesn't matter what his name is. Anybody coming in at that exact moment is in less than ideal circumstances. I didn't think Arch flinched in the moment. First drive, it looked like he was completely not warmed up. And he comes to the sideline and he's like, man, I need to throw some passes on the sideline. He runs for a first down in the second drive, but then it kind of stalls out and they just don't do anything. I just thought they had bigger problems at that point than Arch. But Arch wasn't the answer to those problems in that moment. It's a big difference between telling Arch at the beginning of the week, you're getting all the first team reps, you're the starter in this game, and you come out for the first game or the first drive. It's different going into that game at that kind of backdrop and context than it is, hey, we're down by 3 scores and our offensive line is getting overwhelmed at this point and Georgia is in a feeding frenzy. Go on out there and try to solve that. It was not ideal.
JC, thank you for the super chat. This is a $2 super chat from C. Jenkins. Damn, we got – okay, we'll just let that one sit there.
Well, Johnny played well, though. Johnny played
tonight.
Yeah, Johnny played well. So,
yes, he did.
He's Mr. Bell to ask. So he played
So did Baron Sorrell.
Yeah.
Sorrell had some moments. 88 had some moments tonight, no doubt. Fred with a $9.99 super chat. When you people going to acknowledge that the O-line heavy the game away? Blame QE.
Gave the game away.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think it's gave the game away.
Gave the game away. Yeah. Blame QE and Arch all you want.
There's a lot of drinking going on here, Fred.
But let me tell you what I saw. Blame Archie all you want.
Hey, it's midnight, man.
I'll give it Fred, but I understand where Fred's at. Fred,
we got you, Fred. You know what, Fred? You keep preaching the truth, Fred. We got you.
Fred's so drunk that he can't even get the autocorrect to work on his phone right now.
That's I dare you to send a $100 super chat.
Come on, Fred.
Hey, I bet you ain't no 300 coming in tonight.
Fred, you know what they say? All the super chats get clear when they're $100. Those $100 super chats are super, super clear. All right, how about this one from East Texas Vegan Dad Bod, $4.99. UTD gets 3 turnovers and played well enough to win. Sark and the offense seemed overwhelmed. Just go with Arch the rest of the way. Quinn's NFL draft stock be damned. Okay. So saying the defense played well enough to win.
I know you think I hate Quinn, but I don't. And I don't agree with that. Like I just think, I think that's a reactionary thought. My question right now, though, is he going to play well? I forget about the rest of the season. Will he play well on Saturday against Vanderbilt? Is he actually not ready to come back? Is he maybe in practice? You can't simulate you can't simulate Georgia. That's for certain. Is he seeing in games a simulation that he can't see in practice, which is giving them a bad read on whether he should be playing or not? Because I would not have been asking that question. I literally would only make like a vague passing set of commentary about the oblique after this game had he not gone out of his way to say it's a problem. It's still a problem. I mean, if that's the thing that's causing this, then we're asking the wrong questions, I think.
Yeah. By the way, the additional quote catch was the oblique is still a problem. And wait till I tell y'all how many guys I'm throwing to with broken hands. That's not true. That's not true. That didn't happen. All right. East Texas Vegan Dad Bod. Thank you for that super chat. Let's go to Tanyo Oli, $4.99. I like the name. Not saying bench Quinn, but why not bring Arch for short yardage or third down to at least make the Georgia D think? The Arch package discussion on
Sark took that thing out behind the shed and put a bullet in that the other week when he started saying
he old Yellered that. Yes,
he old Yeller. He was like, it's time to go ahead and we're gonna put you down. Because he let it be known that when he was a quarterback, he never wanted the backup to play. So when as a starter, he's not going to do that and have the backup. And so you're not going to have an Arch package or anything to that effect. Arch plays if necessary. Arch plays if you have the need, but you're not going to see a Tyrone Swoops 16-wheeler package or whatever you want to call it. That's just not going to F-16, like whatever you want to call it. That's not going to happen.
Onward, you know what it reminds me of? Hey, are you going to do any of that Brennan Marion go-go offense?
Oh no.
Sark hates it.
He hated that.
When people are like, I got some ideas for what you guys should be doing on offense.
He hated that question, didn't he?
I got it right here. I got it right here on my notepad, Sark. I got all the plays for you. All right, rolling through the super chats here. Thank you guys for jumping in here. We are past midnight. The Nightcrawler edition after Georgia beats Texas goes on. Over 3,200 of you in the Specs chat. We appreciate you for that. This is a $2 super chat from Mac High. Ted Cruz was in the building. We had no chance. Let's keep politics out of it tonight, but we do thank you for the $2 super chat.
I have one political thought that I think we can all agree on.
Okay.
I will be so goddamn glad when this election is over with, so we don't have to see any more commercials.
I'll be so, you know what? Not only the commercials, actually, I will be glad when I don't have to get text messages, because at this moment, the first candidate who does not text me, either side, is going to be on the one that gets my vote. Like, because I get them all. Like, I get them all. Like, they don't give a damn.
So I opted out of one today, and it was like, hit stop to send or whatever it is. I am no longer supporting some politician in Michigan. I was like, how did I end up on this person's list?
Anwar, are you going into
control.
Anwar's going into the voting booth with his phone in his hand. Let's see. You hit me up 10 times this week, and you only hit me up 8 times. You get the vote. Here we go.
Every ad, man. Every ad.
Yeah, it's hard.
Just beating me down.
It's ending soon. It's ending soon, but it's not over yet. Just like maybe this conversation's not over yet. Super chat, $10. John, will Arch be playing going forward? Does Quinn have a short leash now? We haven't used that phrase at all on this postgame show, gentlemen, for both of you. Short leash, shorter leash. What changed? Anwar, let me start with you. What do you think? Like, what happened? Anything? No.
Keep in mind, Sark was asked this question on Thursday. It was like, how dare you?
He really. I mean, for Sark, he should have said like, hey Thomas, I know you asked me that question on Thursday and didn't go over well, but let's now kid a joke, like now you have your answer, right? I honestly, Catch, I have my gut reaction, and then there's the real reaction, right? My gut is like, oh, it's going to be a long leash. The reality is, Catch, they're playing like this, and they're down 21 versus Vanderbilt in the second half or something. In the second quarter, 23, something to that effect. He might do it again. It's like anything, Catch. Once you do it once, you open the Pandora's box. It's easy to keep doing it. It's hard. It's hard like everything. It's always harder the first time, right? It's always harder the first time someone steals something or does something, but then they get used to it. And so, the first time is hard. That's the difficult. That's the thing you're like, I'm not going to do it. Now you did it once. It's easier to do it again. So I don't know. It's not a long leash. I don't think it's a short leash, but I think it's somewhere in the middle. And I think he comes out and it's like, shit, here we go again, and it's on Vanderbilt, and they're starting to win. Yeah.
Because to be fair, guys, when we use that analogy about in case of emergency break glass, a lot of times what's behind that glass is like a fire hose or an axe, but you can take it out and then you can put it back in. Now you got to move some broken glass, but it'll go back in there and sit there and you can walk away, but somebody will look at it and know, oh, they must have had an emergency because they broke the glass. So it's just a matter of, like you said, the Anwar, does he just look at it as if we have small little emergencies, we'll just keep taking that axe out, swing it a couple times, and we're going to keep putting it back? Because I don't know if the fans are going to enjoy that version.
Well, I don't know, so but here's what I would say, just to Quinn's defense, to a little bit. First of all, the run game has not been there. I mean, so it's not like there has been some running backs that you have lit up the world that's kind of taking pressure off the quarterback or anything like that. The run game catch, I think.
It did last week though.
Yeah, well, this week Weiser averaged 3.5 a carry. I mean, Jaden Blue is somewhat non-existent, and Jaden Blue is supposed to be the starting running back. It's like another year where somehow
there's no carries, Anwar. No carries?
That's
crazy.
They got to go into the portal, Anwar, because you can't come back with this group, and then everybody else is injured. You can't count on C.J. Baxter being your starter next year. Maybe it happens. But he's coming off of a major injury. Like, we're at a point now where we start thinking about next season. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I wouldn't, after tonight, go, no, we're good. We don't need anything else.
No. They have been okay, but it's been a little bit of a struggle. So, and of course, the offensive line probably had one of their worst performances that we have seen in a while. And as much as we all think highly of Kelvin Banks, this won't affect his draft stock, but it probably was the worst game that he's had since he's been here at UT as well. With other penalties there, as far as the false starts and the right side of the line was getting abused. They all had a rough game. When Sark talks about the good, bad, and the ugly, the ugly will focus on us probably a lot.
Bro? I don't remember DJ Campbell having a bad moment. I need to go back and look at the game, but a week ago, he was the weak link. And this week, I'm not so certain that the interior guys were the biggest problem.
By the way, I just saw a $20 super chat come in. It's the biggest number I see right now, $19.99 from Moderate This. Catch, you challenged the crowd to bring it, and they did. Quarter one was fire, as was most of the second half. Bottle throwing was tech-level shameful. But shows where the energy level was. Moderate This, chef's kiss for tech level shameful. I don't recall that phrasing, but I'm going to start using that in everyday life. I like that.
No, hey, the crowd was A+ all day long. They were great on game day. They brought, the Herb Street and Fowler, thank you. We're comparing the atmosphere to a national championship game. So pat on the back for the Texas fans. I thought they were great. I thought they held up their end of the bargain, especially considering they didn't get a lot of help there in the first 2 hours of actual football.
It looked like they were going to get to participate in like a defensive war to start that game. It felt like we might be oh my God, are we about to see like a 6-3 first half? And it's just so tough. And then it turned into something different. So it was had to be a little weird, but it did seem like a great house tonight for Longhorn fans. By the way, Chris, I see this. Just a nice $4.99, maybe right in the old tip jar. We appreciate you, Chris. Thank you for that super chat. Thanks to everybody who's hanging with us this late. Oscar throwing in $1.99. We need Joe Tatum. All right.
Who is Joe Tatum?
Is Joe Tatum the that's not the Oklahoma running back, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a discussion off of that's not who that is, right? Am I
Joe Tatum is a third-year quarterback at UT who's a walk-on.
Oh, coach. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I was mixing it up with that name. That's only the name.
1,185 pounds.
Okay.
Well, you could say she should have said Cole Lord. I would have gotten that.
I was gonna say Cole Lord. We would have gotten
Cole Lord. I would never have got Cole Lord.
A Trey Owens, Cole Lord reference. One of those two would have worked. Longhorn football edits. What's up? Hope you're having a good night. $2 super chat. IDGAF Longhorn for life. Well, I mean, yeah, you're not going to stop being a fan because of a game like this. Find the break on that. Jeez.
Hey, it's midnight, man. There are a few pops have been consumed.
Yeah.
We're going to get a little extreme.
Oh, my God. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no one was expecting you to go into your closet and burn everything tonight. All these polos, all this money I spent. And then he was like, just when he's about to do it, he goes, I don't give a fuck. Long life.
Angela Bassett waiting to excel. Just throws it all into the car, then sets it on fire.
Oh, my God. Thank you for that one. That's awesome. This is J Harv 199. O-line played likely warm garbage juice. No excuse. That's just gross. I don't care what time of night. That's just gross. O-line did not have their best night. There's no doubt about that. $4.99 from Russ. Lesson learned tonight. Texas fans, there is still a lot of football to be played. Will be okay. There is a lot of football to be played.
I mean, there's still a playoff team at the end of the day. So, I mean, you got to hang your hat on that. So,
guys,
when they salvage the nation won't wake up tomorrow asking themselves, should Texas fall to 15?
Correct.
As bad as the first half was, they did enough in the second half that they can hold their heads up high, and I don't think anybody's clowning on them. I think everybody's like, oh, Georgia might win the national championship.
Yeah, I don't think they'll fall to like 6. They're probably 6, maybe 7-ish or something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say you leave them in the top 10 after that fight in the second half, right? At least you put up some kind of a fight. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And then also, guys, what it tells me is real simple. I just think the all week I've been saying I felt like it was Texas and the pack. I just think now we know Texas is in the pack. I think they're towards the top of the pack, but there is no true badass get out of the way team for me in college football this year. Like Georgia played well tonight. They look pretty damn good. They're one of them. I don't know if you want to mess with at the end. I thought maybe it was Texas, and I picked them to beat Georgia tonight. That's not what they look like. I just think there's a pack, and these two teams are towards the top of the pack. That's what I learned watching this game.
Yeah, and I think if we really took a step back from tonight, and if we go back to most of our preseason predictions, most of us had them around 10-2, with Georgia being the loss. So it was just keeping it real. Most of us said Georgia was the loss, and so that kind of goes the way we expected if we take a step back. And then we know that, and we predicted that maybe one other loss would happen on the back half of the season. So overall, as disappointing as it is, it's still kind of going the way the majority of us thought it was going to go. Of course, we pivoted a little bit during the season because we thought, hey, this might be a little bit different. Now you go back, okay, still 10-2 is still nothing to be ashamed of if that's how it ends up being. Obviously, the goal being 11-1.
Yeah.
By the way, the Dr. Pepper "I don't need backup" commercial just ran on ESPN.
Oh, no, it's back. It is back. Good grief. No, that's not going away. That's that. We thought it wouldn't, and now it's kind of made its way back into the discussion.
He did need a backup last year to go to the college football playoffs.
He did. Every time I saw that commercial before Arch came in, I wondered how Malik Murphy saw that commercial. I wondered if Malik was at Duke going, wait a minute, I could, what? I was right there.
They literally say in the commercial, I didn't need a backup to go to the playoffs. And it's like, well, no, you did. You got hurt.
What? I was waiting for Malik Murphy to jump out of that police car behind Bosworth and Ewers and go, what? Who? What are you talking about?
Just FYI.
Yeah. How about a 199er from J Harv? God bless our defense, man, tonight.
Hey, and real quick, I didn't write this, but I can say it because it's after midnight.
Yeah.
You know what that Dr. Pepper commercial reminds me of?
What's that?
My Mississippi tweet from 10 years ago.
Oh, good Lord.
You got to ask yourself, what's the upside, right?
Okay.
Because just like the commercial, you're just trying to be funny. But what's the upside?
Right.
For me in 2014, it turns out none. And got myself into trouble. Why? Because I was trying to be a smart ass and like play to the crowd and be funny. And with Quinn, you ask yourself, like, what's the upside in that? Because it literally is testing fate. It's testing fate. What if, what if Arch comes in and tears it up? Then it's almost as if your legacy is that commercial and how your college career. Anyway, I'm just saying in retrospect, I don't know that you needed to do that in the ad. You could still do the Dr. Pepper commercial and don't reference the backup quarterback.
I'll be honest with you. Once I heard about it before the whole thing got public and was going to run, and I said I thought it was a bad idea.
Because there's way more downside. We all know what the downside is. What's the upside? You made a funny in a commercial.
Right.
Again, I've been there. Believe me, I've been there. What's the upside? I made some people on Twitter chuckle.
Yeah, and by the way, to quarterbacks around the country, I would start really asking yourself, what is Dr. Pepper asking of me? 2 years in a row now. Caleb Williams walks under a ladder and makes that joke about bad luck and then ends up getting hurt during the season. Then Quinn Ewers talks about backups and references Arch and ends up getting hurt and missing time. Like, I'm not saying, do
the
Madden
ads, but like I'm just,
I'm not saying Madden jinx here, fellas, but I would just double check. Just double check what they're asking you to do if you're a quarterback and Dr. Pepper calls. Just Dr. Pepper has jokes. They don't have your best interest at heart. That's what I would argue in terms of the themes that they want to throw out. But hey, we'll see. All right. So how about a $4.99 super chat from James? Those Georgia DNs bald and Quinn's lack of mobility will hurt him in the drafty. It'll get drafty. Quinn runs a 5.5 plus 40. Love the kid, but damn. Okay, James.
I feel bad. Like I don't
know what else to say to that.
It's an hour 51 of the show so far. And on where I mentioned it in the first minute, I was like, it's going to be 2 hours of like crapping on Quinn's performance. And it's unavoidable, but it's not fun. And at some point we're really just repeating ourselves 1,000 times.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Texas fans just have to come to grips with he's your starting quarterback. Like that's who your guy is going to be for the rest of the season, unless and here's the deal. You would have to, what you don't want is more shit like this. So I mean, you better hope that he gets it turned around, because Arch didn't come in and light it up where you would say to yourself, like, well, shoot, just throw Arch in and hell, look what's about to happen. We don't know that. So because of that, you better hope that he gets it turned around.
Anwar, let me hit these two quick super chats, and then I had a follow-up.
I mean, there's like 22 more.
There are a lot of them in there. There are a lot of them in there, but I had a real quick follow-up for you.
We're doing a 3-hour show. Do I have to do a column tomorrow?
RJ,
can I tap out? Like, what is this?
RJ19. We will let you tap out at one point as long as Catch is good with that. 199. This chat would ruin Arch. You don't want that. You don't want that. That's the
chat would ruin Arch.
Not necessarily. I think there was some conversations going on in the chat at that moment. Daryl with a 199. Thank you, Daryl, for that. Anwar, I just wanted to ask you about the reaction of the crowd. So I could sense the pop when Arch was announced, because that's what they do, even though the game was not going the way they wanted. Tell me, though, about when Quinn came back. Like, did you sense from the crowd it was kind of a, oh, Lord, or an eye roll or whatever? I'm just wondering about not Vanderbilt, the Kentucky and Florida games coming up, which will be at home. And do you feel like Quinn's going to get a weird energy from this crowd going forward?
No, look, the Arch pop happened. It's not as thunderous as I've seen before. I think there was a little bit of a surprise with it, but then, he could, continue. When Quinn came back in, it was like, oh, okay, well, Quinn's in, and kind of happened kind of quickly because both of those guys were kind of near the huddle. And then, Quinn, rolls back out there, and then, they take the snap. So I didn't sense anything, to that effect. I think, again, kind of what I just said before, because Arch didn't go out there and just go lights out, I don't necessarily think that, the crowd is going to feel any kind of way. But I do believe the microscope will be, on him, and people will be watching Quinn and analyzing it. And now that he says that, hey, this thing is, maybe I'm not at 100%, which, is weird because all his people were saying he was about as close to 100% as he could be just a couple of weeks ago. And okay. Now we're not. And then okay, I got it. Okay.
Those Georgia DNs hit you, and man, you'll feel something all of a sudden.
Well, he got hit one time, and I know for sure he ain't, he's probably not at 100%. So I don't think it's to do that. I just think that the microscope will be there. And I think now maybe the things that Ketch talked about on our overreaction show Monday, where will people be calling for it? That thing I think now becomes more of a thing than it was before. Maybe before it was a smaller number of people. I think now it becomes a little bit bigger.
Ketch, we got 21 super chats here. Anwar does bring up a point. It is
Anwar, you get out of here and let Chad and I just try to roll through these.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
There we
go.
Guys,
unless you're sending more than $20, don't send any more super chats.
Oh, I see. Okay. You're setting a $20 minimum? That's what you're doing?
If you send a super chat from this moment moving forward, and it's not at least $20, we might not take it because we keep taking the super chats, but we're still at 21.
It's okay. It's appropriate. I'm at TCH Social Austin. It's appropriate. We have 21. All right, here we go. Are you ready, Ketch?
Yes. Rapid fire.
Oscar, $9.99. Quinn played like dog first half, but what can't happen is we let this hurt the season. We just got outplayed. Lot of season left, and it's not a killer. Let's lick our wounds and rebound. Oscar, there you go. $9.99.
And Chad, this is what I'm talking about. And not only if you send $20, I will skip you to the front of the line.
Front of the line, $20. Man, you orange-blooded. I will take the defense anywhere. They came to play. Hat tip to Barron, Sorrell, and Collins. Offense hard to watch. It certainly was for half that game, and maybe a little more.
Chad.
Yeah.
Hey, I can live with this. El Presidente, 1999. O-line got their ass kicked all night long. Starts up front. Right side of the line was exposed over and over. Hudson needs to play more than DJ. I'm still stepping with the wrong foot, Campbell.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm still stepping with the wrong foot. There we go. How about Jay?
I literally just got finished saying that. I thought DJ Campbell had
you thought
a pretty good game.
You did, yeah. $4.99 JC. I agree with you, Ketch. Ewers had to be pulled to put a fire under him.
Sometimes a guy just needs to step back for a second and catch his breath, watch the game a little bit. That's what they do with other players in other positions. It stands to reason that, that maybe being pulled out did help Quinn. Comes back into the third quarter. He was a noticeably different player than when he departed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about lighting a fire under the guy. He got to play good. He's got to play well.
Yeah.
Not play with more intensity or anger or, I don't think that's what that was about.
All right, we're under 20. We're there. We're at 19. Let's roll. Quan Seeker, $4.99. Current OB poll, 75% want Arch. We aren't winning anything this year with Quinn. Deer in the headlights. Wow. Now, see, that is a whole different kind of perspective than, yeah, that's different.
I understand someone who says that, though, because Quan's not saying they won't beat Vanderbilt or they won't beat Arkansas or they won't beat Florida or they won't beat Kentucky or even A&M.
Not winning the big stuff.
He's saying in the biggest games, we won't win those. And I tend to agree more than I disagree.
Thank you for that super chat. Good Lord. Put in Arch with a $9.99 super chat. Catch looking at stats, not the game. QE threw at least 2 in the second half that Georgia DBs dropped. His one long throw to Bolden was underthrown. I think that was Golden, but we know where you're going. Again, and the last one to Helm was a jump ball. Okay. Not a
Again, look, let me just say it again like this. Quinn was 7 of 10 for like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. Everything else sucked. Like you're just not listening to me correctly. Because we agree with each other, other than you think I'm not looking at the game. Because what you're referencing, the DBs dropping the ball and the long throw to Bolden, I've mentioned that. The last one to Helm, I've given him the right amount of credit, and I've talked about his failures in exactly the right amount of breath.
I'm going to ask it this way, Catch, especially with what we've seen out of Vanderbilt. If Quinn puts that on the field in any of the games they play, can they beat anybody on their schedule if he's going to play that way?
They can lose every game the rest of the way if he does that again.
Well, I mean,
Oklahoma's one of the few teams that are left that just pose no threat.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Right. If you play OU again, if you could play OU again, maybe.
It's like when the Cowboys played the Browns. Can we play the Browns every week?
Oh, I tried, man. I wrote Roger Goodell a note. He never responded.
Season.
$9.99 from Daryl. Arch should have started the second half. That's okay. Not the only.
At the end of the day, playing Quinn didn't win the game.
Well, and there wasn't enough. Catch, you said it. There needed to be something quick. I'm not saying Arch had to do something on the first play. I'm saying that first couple, when he was in there, it needed to feel quick. Something needed to start happening to turn that momentum around, to calm it. It was 20-0, right? It needed to go to 20-7, 20-3, 20 to, just something to give you all right.
If you could have scored 7, Chad, before the half,
then he's got to get the third quarter.
Well, because then you can, in theory, let's say it's 20-0, but you score a touchdown. You don't give them that late field goal, right?
Right.
It's 20-7, and then you get the ball first, and you score a touchdown, and now it's 20-14. You're not going for 2-point conversions. You're not turning down field. You're in a game.
Yeah,
and the reality is that Texas desperately chased the game, maybe to even its own detriment at times in the second half.
Yeah. By the way, it is. We're over 2 hours now. You got over 3,300 folks in the Specs chat. We love you. Thank you for being here with us on the Orange Bloods Live.
We are leaving at 1:00 at the latest.
1:00 at the latest is Catch's promise to you. I see 16 super chats. We are hammering our way through. Here we go. $4.99 from JC. Hey Chad, it was nice to meet you at Texas Card House. I was the guy with the Texas championship belt. JC, that was a badass belt. I enjoyed seeing that. That was cool. Catch, when somebody walks in, my man had a Texas flag, or no, it was like a burnt orange American flag, I think, as a cape. And he was carrying a championship belt. So I have to go talk to that guy. And I went and talked to him and held the belt, and it was pretty cool. So, yes, JC, great to meet you, and always cool to see a good championship belt as a wrestling fan. Bevo versus the world, except Uga because he's scared. $1.99, what does Quinn's play say about Millweed's coaching?
That could have been an autocorrect,
it could have been. I was gonna say, I hope that was just an honest mistake.
My phone probably would try to do something weird with Millweed too. So
it made me
what
laugh.
does it say? Bevo versus the world? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not sure. I think that you're in a situation here, Catch, because of who this head coach is. It falls on him. If you're going to ask that question, you're asking it about Sark, not Millweed.
I 1,000% agree.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I like it, Bevo.
We haven't said AJ Millweed's name once in the 2 years or the year plus you and I have been back together.
Yeah, that's not it.
You can't do it tonight.
Nope, can't do it tonight. AJ Millweed right now might be driving home and turned the show on, and it's like, whoa.
You guys haven't given me credit for anything.
Hold on.
And tonight's my fault?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. AJ, if you're watching in tonight, hey, get home safe. Get home safe.
We have your back, at least to the extent of you're not going to catch any strays from us at 1:00 in the morning. Trust me.
That wasn't us. If we're in on anybody, we're on your boss. I promise. All right. Mike, $4.99, trying not to get too down about the L, but very concerned about Quinn's regression. Defense was a bright spot. Need to regroup. Is this, oh Lord, a 3-loss team, Jeff Ketchum?
I mean, if they lose another regular season game and then lose in the playoffs, then yeah, they would be a 3-loss team. Are they going to lose 2 of their next 5? I don't think so.
Yeah, I was going to say regular season. I'm not quite ready to go there yet, but could I? Yeah, like you just said, could I see a 3rd loss being the one that ultimately kicks them out? Like they'll be done? Yeah, I mean that I could see, Mike. But we'll have to see. Again, Texas showed me tonight they're in the pack. They're not clearly better than everybody, because that is what we had seen. They were a clear number 1 to me. They'd shown it, and they had a chance to prove it against the best team they had played, and they weren't ready to go. And now they got to go back to the drawing board. All right, Ben, $4.99. Quinn and Sark get an F for this game. What the hell is wrong with Quinn's footwork? He's got happy feet. He's not him. He's not a Heisman, not a number 1 overall pick. Man, Ben. All right. All about what he's not.
Not sure if Ben's not wrong.
Yeah. And he wasn't, I don't know that he was a number 1 overall pick going in. I don't think we had talked about him that way.
It's very disappointing that he's into his 4th year of college football and his mechanics are so bad.
Yeah. I don't know that his feet are ever going to get good at this point.
When he's under stress, his basics go out the window. And that's actually a horrible thing for a quarterback. It's actually the opposite of what you want. Well, when the shit hits the fan, the basics are never going to fall apart is what you want from your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And, Quinn's arm angles are always a thing. He thinks, I think the word, I hate, people will say, people get mad at me for saying this. I can feel it coming a mile away. His quarterback coach is like his personal quarterback coach is Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coach. And I think he tries too hard at times to be Patrick Mahomes, and he's not. He's not. And consequently, you get sloppy feet, you get weird arm angles, you get just real sloppy mechanics. Patrick Mahomes gets away with that because he might be the best quarterback that's ever played the game. If you're less than that, maybe do the basics really well.
Ben, thank you for that super chat. How about this one? C. Jenkins, 313, $5. Kirby will never take away the Sam Ehlinger "we're back" moment. Damn it. Take your sun visor off at night, tool. I mean,
I think the L is supposed to be an exclamation mark.
Oh, wait. Damn it.
It's not.
Oh.
But I think it's supposed to be.
Oh, you don't think they're calling him a tool? You think it's 2?
You know what?
I think it meant
you
tool.
Might be right. He might just be throwing in. There's no comma.
I think they were calling him a tool. And the only thing I would say, I'm not a visor guy myself, but if you're going to get on somebody for wearing a visor at night, don't you have to get on somebody for wearing just a hat at night? Because they don't need that either. Yeah. I mean, they don't, right? There's no bill needed at night. So come on.
And then there's the sunglasses.
Now, sunglasses.
Kirby is wearing sunglasses at night, but man, unless you're smoking an ounce of weed, take your sunglasses off.
You probably need that. Catch, I wear my sunglasses at night. 80s hit from what star?
Oh,
come on, you can do it.
I know I can. You're asking
Wonder-ish. See if you can do it. After Midnight, kids.
Oh, why can't I think of that guy's name?
Child of the 80s.
Corey Hart.
Very good. Corey Hart is the correct answer to that question. Music trivia, late night with Jeff Ketchum. We're going to be talking REO Speedwagon until about what of the
If it weren't 12:38, I'd have got that 5 seconds earlier.
Well done. That was well done. Well done. Later on in the show, we're going to break down Karate Kid Part 2. Be with us. Oscar, $9.99. We fire Sark. Hire Saban. Red Wedding all over again, baby. Oscar clearly hammered when he laid that one out. Well done, Oscar. I don't know if that was Oscar or his dad, but they're both having a good time tonight. Not a good time. They're enjoying themselves on the Super Chats, so we appreciate that. Brandon with a Super Chat, $5. How do we go back to Quinn? Ever. Even Kirby says Arch is the bigger threat. And Brandon, you watched it happen. Sark went back to Quinn and laid this thing out. Catch, these three are going to have to figure it out. I've been saying it for months, but tonight the message was pretty clear. The starting quarterback is still number 3, and Texas fans are going to have to figure out how to deal with it and process it, at least for now.
Yep.
I don't know what else to tell them. I don't know what else to tell them at this point. All right, I see 9. That is less than
single
10.
digits, baby.
Exciting. Single digits is fun. Here we go. Barb's 10, $4.99. Kirby is George Costanza, shoving kids while running out of a burning building. So, okay, all right. Barb's 10. Come on now. Come on. Good to see you tonight, brother. Good to see you tonight. How about RJ, $1.99? This chat is just anti-Quinn. I don't know if that's a very simple way to say it. Very simple way to say it. I don't know if that's true. There were some things in this game that would make you anti the quarterback tonight.
He's saying the chat, though.
The chat, right. The chat, there was a lot going on definitely in the chat tonight. This is an interesting angle to take, Matthew. $4.99 after a game like that. Best Texas defense since? ?
2009. Duh.
Okay, there you go. Look at that, Matthew. Quick questions. Quick answers. Matthew again. Maybe the same Matthew. $4.99. Real talk for a sec. Okay. It's been almost 3 years, 4 if you include his time at OSU for Quinn. Let's call a spade at this point. Dude is average. Average? Matthew? Is that the right word, Catch? Average? Come on now.
It's not the right word, but no, it's just not.
Okay. That's a little strong. A little strong, Matthew. Just a little strong. But yeah, it can't continue like this. I mean, Catch has said it tonight. It can't continue to look like this game after game. That is not going to work. I mean, Quinn would tell us that. $9.99 from Moderate. Can we talk about game management in addition to clock management? Thought 2-point conversion was a bad call, even though we converted, and was passing on a field goal. Take the points. And especially when the offense has been a liability. Moderate, I agree with both of your takes. I'm an old man football fan. Most of the young binders do not agree with me. Catch, what'd you think?
You and I were on the same side. We were asking these questions in real time in our Orange Bloods Teams channel. I got to be honest, nobody else agreed with Chad and I. So it seemed, everybody seemed to think that it was the move to go. I just thought it was really early in the game, and I thought there was still a lot of time left, especially the field goal. I thought, take the points. You're only down by 12 at that point, which means, you actually have a little bit of flexibility there that you don't have to pitch a shutout. You just don't have to let them into the end zone, and the goal of needing 2 touchdowns remains the same. In the end, the 3 points wouldn't have mattered, so let's not get too lost in it. Those things end up being kind of insignificant details inside of a 15-point loss.
And Moderate, here's what you may have been thinking that I know I was thinking. In our chat, somebody said of a 15-point lead versus a 12-point lead, well, it's still 2 touchdowns. And I wanted to throw my phone. I was so mad at that thought. I'm like, no, that's not the same thing. It's not. You can take the 2-point conversion discussion out of it. Plus, if you're down 12, you have to get 2 touchdowns to catch up, but you take the lead that way. 2 normal touchdowns get you the lead.
Hell, you can miss an extra point at that point.
I mean, I go looking for crazy pills when I have these discussions. Catch, I'll tell you, at 30-15, all I kept thinking was, if Sark scores a touchdown here, watch him go for 2 again. And then he actually, there were some things in this game that it made sense that he did, because there was later on, I guess he actually went for an extra point when I thought he should have, right? When he was down 15, I guess the first time. Am I doing the math right on that? Yeah, when it was 20 to make it 23-15, he actually did the right thing. He kicked an extra point. But yeah, I'm with you, Moderate. It's. I feel like it makes us all old men and women football fans, but I think we're right because I think the math works out. But anyway, thank you for that comment. We were with you. JC, $9.99. Onward didn't catch say earlier. Didn't catch say earlier in the week that Arch gave Texas a better chance to beat Georgia. This would go back to y'all's conversation about the quarterbacks. I didn't catch it all, so.
I've been waiting. I saw JC ask this question, and I've been waiting for you to pull it up.
Okay.
There's a wild difference between asking Arch to come in when the score is 20-0 and it's a feeding frenzy on one side of the ball versus him starting at the beginning of the game and then taking all of the reps with the ones and being a part of the overall part of the game plan. You're starting at 0-0. Let's talk about Quinn for a second. You seem to be pointing to tonight as an example of me being wrong in saying that what I said, Chad, on Monday was that I would start Quinn Ewers in this game for the experience and the big game stuff, all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But I think Arch Manning is better than Quinn Ewers. Now, let's talk about tonight's performance. It is, from a statistical, non-subjective, just what does the data say in terms of how well he played, it is the third worst game he's ever played as a Texas Longhorn player. He's never been, only 2 other times has he had a worse statistical performance than he did tonight. And it's the worst game he's had since TCU at home, when TCU was number 4 in the country and Texas lost 17-10, and he had a 75.3 quarterback rating. The other time was the game in Stillwater when he threw 3 interceptions and had a 94. It was 2 weeks before that, and he had a 94.7 quarterback rating. He was so bad tonight, I refuse to believe that Arch Manning would have had a lower. He couldn't have played worse. You could have started Arch Manning today. He would not have had 17 yards passing in the first half. So I think you think this is a gotcha question. And I don't think you're trying to be mean-spirited or anything. I think you think I was wrong. And I would point out and say, if Arch Manning starts the game tonight, Texas isn't down 23-0. The offense isn't that bad. The quarterback play was abysmal. You can't play worse than Quinn Ewers did, other than more turnovers. But he had a negative 25 quarterback rating in the second quarter. You don't think Arch could have done that?
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that Texas wins the game if Arch starts. But Arch could not have played worse than Quinn did tonight.
JC, thank you for that super chat. My goodness.
It doesn't get worse than getting benched.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. We are 3 away. We have 3 super chats left. Let's thank almost 3,300 of you in the Specs chat. Lisa will tell you about Specs, and then we're going to get these last 3.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. And there's the floor. They're still there. Oh, yeah. That is not some shot from like 2 this afternoon.
So, you can keep that camera on all night.
This ain't no shot from 2 in the afternoon, catch. That is, now I will say, to be honest, there is a technical delay, but I literally think that's 15 seconds of a delay. It's not like an hour or 3 hours or 5 hours. It's nothing like that.
But you know what? It's only 2 seconds off my TV because I can see what's happening.
Okay, there you go.
In the game behind you.
There it is.
And it's what I'm watching right now. So it's not like I'm watching a play and like what's going on in this Utah TCU game.
Yeah.
They're literally synced.
TCH Social Austin. Thanks to them for having us out once again. Texas and Vanderbilt, it's an afternoon kick, as you've been seeing on the crawl. It's 2:30 to 3:30, somewhere in there. It's technically TBD, but we know it's a midday game next Saturday. Just plan to be right here. It's a road game. If you're not going to Nashville, come see us at TCH Social Austin, and we will have ourselves a good time. All right, got a couple more to get to. Arthur Mills IV, $9.99. WTF, got to fly back home to Atlanta, listening to all these dogs barking. Texas needs to bring the wood in a rematch back home. O-line got whipped
Pure and simple.
Oh, pure and simple. Thank you. Pure and simple, hashtag hook 'em. O-line, definitely taking their criticism.
Arthur, you knew what the risks were when you hopped on the plane to come to Austin this weekend.
Yeah.
There was always the possibility. I mean, it wasn't like Texas was a 30-point favorite. They were a 5-point favorite, turns into 3. I mean,
yeah,
it was, it was always a possibility.
Arthur knew it, Catch. He just didn't want it to be real. Now it's real. Now he's hearing the he don't want to hear
He's like, WTF. What do you mean what WTF?
You knew if those dog fans got what they wanted, they were going to be a little loud on that plane. Safe
Arthur,
travels.
be safe going home.
Yeah, safe travels, Arthur. All right, look at this. To end up with Kyle with just a $1.99, a little right in the tip jar. Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate it. And you know who's going to finish it off? It's the same Arthur who's getting on the plane. At the end of the day gonna end. There it is. Deep thoughts from Arthur the Fourth. Plethora of piñatas. Catch cleaning his house, keeping an eye on the game with Georgia up 23-0. The fans need to make more noise.
What's funny is I heard like 10 different people say the exact same thing I said over the course of the last 48 hours. I heard Sark say it. Herb Street said it. It was talked about on the TV tonight.
Uh-huh.
You guys just like to pick at me.
And you know what, Catch? I feel
I didn't say anything crazy.
I didn't think you said anything crazy either. And I don't know if I added to it because immediately my reaction to what you said, I didn't mean it as any kind of an admonishment. I just said, you know what, Catch? I think they'll be good. I think they'll be ready. I think this environment is going to get them going and they're going to be ready to. I just had that feeling. So I hope it didn't come across like I was attacking you in any way.
Because I
totally agreed with you. I agreed with you.
People on the Orange Bloods who were like, and Chad agrees you were being a dick.
No, trust me. That is not the way I read what you were saying. I was totally with you. I had a feeling that that part was going to be fine. What I didn't think was going to happen is that, Texas was going to look that flat early. And that the quarterback.
If I tell you before the game, Carson Beck's stats, you would think that Texas won this game by 3. Let me read this out. This was Carson Beck tonight.
Okay.
23 of 41 for 175 yards, 3 interceptions. He had a 77.3 quarterback rating.
Oh, yeah, that is hot buttered popcorn if you're a Texas fan. That's
like some shit that you would see from Texas quarterbacks on those old Brian Jones teams.
Yeah, Catch. That's like what I had for breakfast this morning, thanks to my beautiful mother who's in town, biscuits and gravy. And it was tasty. And that's what I would have thought as a Texas fan. Like, serve me up some more of that, Carson Beck. But it turned into a weird, sloppy game, Catch, where, you see this sometimes with your team. You look back at the opportunity that was there, and you just couldn't take advantage.
Texas lost this game with Beck putting up a 3 interception performance and a 77.3 quarterback rating, and they averaged 3.6 yards per carry as a team. And Trevor Etienne had averaged 4.6 yards per carry and had only 87 yards.
Yeah, Etienne was all right, but not phenomenal. He had some moments, but he didn't dominate by any stretch. And yeah, Texas couldn't take advantage because their quarterback, their offensive line, their run game, just nothing got going, Catch. And all the cute, really creative play calling we were looking for from Sark just never really showed up. Little bits, little pieces, little hitches and starts, but it never really got going. And if either Sark or Bobo could have started this game with like a badass set of play calls, that team might have won by 30. If they really could have hit the ground running and just started stomping and do what Bama did to Georgia early and then actually play defense like Bama didn't, this could have been a thrashing. But it ended up being just a weird kind of broken bottle bar fight of a game in some ways. And yeah, it's frustrating. It has to be frustrating for a Texas fan because it's a game we've been looking for, and you had a chance to really separate yourself, and you just didn't. So now you're going to have to get into that pack and do the work and try to work your way back to where you want to go.
I got a text message from a guy, Mac, good
Yeah.
buddy of mine. And I'll just throw this out there, and it can even be the last question of the night. We're out of super chats, right?
We did get all the super chats in. Thank you guys so much for all those super chats, especially this late at night. Hell, there's almost 3,300 of you still hanging with us here on a night crawler edition. What do you got, Catch?
My boy Mac sends me a text message. I literally just received it at 12:51 a.m.
Nice.
Quote, so for real, how many times do we have to hear someone needs to play better before they actually do have to do it?
That's an interesting deep thought, right? How many times do you have to tell your kids they're going to get punished before you actually punish them for whatever it is they're doing? Well, you said earlier, Catch, if it looks like that again through any stretch of a game, there's going to have to be something here. I mean, really, and I think Sark knows it. Now, the discussion that some people didn't know if we were going to have, we're having to have it. And it's not quite the ultimate discussion yet. It's not quite, all right, we're going to have to turn to this guy. But, boy, there's stuff there now. And hopefully Texas fans can deal with this in a positive way and figure out how to get through it without destroying anybody in this, because that's what tends to happen. Got to breathe, got to have patience, but it's tough. And now we're here. We've talked about it.
Chad.
Yeah, people made fun of us last week, Catch, for even bringing up Quinn and Arch, and look what happened in this game. So here we go.
Funny how that happens.
It's funny how that happens. Thanks, everybody, for liking, subscribing. Hey, I said 3,300 people. Did you like the show? Did you like the postgame show? And I don't just mean in theory. Like, did you hit that button on your way in? If not, hit that button on your way out. It kind of helps us out. We appreciate it. Those super chats really help us out, and we appreciate you for that as well. And thank you again to TCH Social Austin. And, of course, thanks to the presenting sponsor of the postgame show. That is the Lowy Law Firm. If you find yourself in need of such a thing, check out that Lowy Law Firm. They will absolutely help you out. As soon as we know the kick time, sometime tomorrow, we'll find it out for Vanderbilt. It'll be locked in. But as you've seen on the crawl, it is a 2:30 to 3:30 slot time in the central time zone is what we're looking at for Texas at Vanderbilt. So Longhorns suffer their first loss of the season, and now they move on to the first true road game in the SEC of the entire season. That's what we'll be talking about. Check out Orange Bloods Live if you haven't done it. Go to orangebloods.com to obviously get all the information as well. Y'all enjoy your weekend, enjoy your NFL and all the rest of it. And again, if you want to come get in on the Trailblazer tournament, they are rolling through. Hang on, we got a good graphic for you. Let me throw this graphic at the end since we are here at TCH Austin. If you're into this Trailblazer, you got another chance to get into it tomorrow morning. So get on over here and check it out if you want to get into the Trailblazer, and come see us next weekend for Texas and Vanderbilt. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for staying with us super, super late. Catch said we'd get out by 1 a.m. Ooh, we just made it. Texas loses to Georgia. The season rolls on. Questions come up, though, and we'll be trying to answer them just like Texas will moving forward. This is Orange Bloods Live.